I'm drawing infinite cards in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151 3 days. Another month passed. The members of the Carl family, Katu and above, all secretly moved to the base fortress of Dragon Turtle Island through the portal. The original old side of the manor was reserved as a stronghold for the family to secretly train newcomers, and it could also be regarded as an indirect care for the Winter Soldier who was frozen and sleeping in the manor's basement. During this period of time, Kyle once again gave the Super Agent card to train 10 card disciples, and used special materials to create a third fixed portal to connect the island base, Stark Industries, Watts, etc. Kanda Kingdom, 3 places far apart from each other. At the same time, his genetic mutation disease can no longer be concealed from other members of the Carl family. After all, although there are not many abnormalities in his body, his brilliant blonde hair has completely turned into silvery white that is a sign of weakness. In about 6 months, Kyle will face the physique of a super soldier. He will be forced to mutate his genes by the irreversible nuclear radiation in his body, and his body will collapse and disintegrate on his own, and he will go to functional death. Logan, Yutong, including Natasha, were shocked and unbelievable when they heard the serious news, and it took a long time to gradually accept this subversive fact. Kyle, they follow their loyal patriarch. That man is recognized as the strongest man in the world. He has been conquering the battlefield as a super soldier. From being a recruit to retiring as a major general, he has a, % winning rate in both big and small battles. With one's own power, influence to turn the tide of battle, behead the Hydra organization, and force the Samurai Kingdom to surrender. This legendary figure standing at the top of the pyramid is known as a god-level hero and a symbol of peace. After the end of World War II, when everyone yearns for peace and happiness, his body still has terminal diseases of war. It's like becoming an old man who is getting old. As the deadline approaches, the mutation of the body's genes accelerates, and the physique even becomes unstable for a short period of time every day. Losing superpowers. Logan and Yutong, after Luzai personally informed the news, immediately went to Kyle to verify it, and proposed in unison on the spot that they were willing to leave the Earth with him and go to the Starry Universe. In this regard, Kyle uniformly refused. For him, the universe and starry sky are full of unknowns and dangers, and there is no big difference between 1 person and 3 people on the road. And Logan and Yutong are the high-end combat power of the Carl family. If they leave the Earth with him, the Carl family will really be in disarray. Don't worry, take care of your home, I will definitely come back alive, Kyle promised them seriously. Although Logan and Yutong were helpless, they couldn't persuade Kyle, who had made a decision. So, in the island base, the family members were collectively depressed. Time passed day by day, and there were only 3 days left for the final countdown to the day when Kyle was expected to leave the Earth. In the last 3 days, Kyle put aside all family affairs, entered the gravity room to keep warming up, practiced more than, fighting skills on his body, and cleared the weapons and equipment and background cards on his body. The item cards stored in the card space, such as gold gems, cannons, firearms, and sundries, are already made and placed in the base inventory, and are handed over to Luxie, the family's general financial manager, to take care of them. Kyle only kept things for himself, such as emergency food, laser pistols, aircraft tanks, etc. that could come in handy. What he's about to embark on is an extremely adventurous journey, either transformed and returned, or turned into a small pile of wreckage in the corner of the vast starry sky, buried in a foreign land outside the Earth. This time, even Kyle had no idea. On Marvel Earth, you can also enjoy the advantages of the Traversers, knowing all kinds of known and unknown dangers, and the main line of history, but once you leave the Earth, your intelligence will be completely zero, and you can only explore and investigate by yourself. Dragon Turtle Base, the gravity room on the 2nd basement floor. Under the bright focusing light, Kyle was standing on his head alone, doing push-ups with one hand continuously. His silver white hair was wet with sweat, flowing down the hair strands, and accumulated a puddle of water on the clean floor. 1023, 1024, 1025, his chest was heaving and panting. He was only wearing a pair of sweatpants, his golden ratio perfect physique was upright, and his muscular abs were as strong as steel. 10 times the peak physique of a super soldier of human beings, the self-healing factor. These all exist in me. They are the abilities that go deep into the blood and bone marrow, and even engraved in the genes. Even if the genetic mutation is suppressed, it is impossible to take it away so easily as things. Kyle has a firm will, maintains a full fighting spirit physically and mentally, and does not want to be reduced to an ordinary person by the mutated gene. Diddy. As the mechanical door of the gravity room opened, Natasha appeared in a tight black leather jacket. After seeing Kyle inside, she hurried in as if she had something to report. Patriarch, there is a message from the New York Manor that Nick Fury has. Before Natasha could finish her verbal words, when she entered the gravity area of the gravity room, she let out an exclamation, fell to the ground hard, and even her chest under the zippered leather jacket was flattened. This gravity, has it been driven to the highest 12 times? Natasha's face flushed. She propped her body up with her hands vigorously, and looked at Kyle, who was still doing push-ups with one hand in front of her. Her beautiful eyes were full of astonishment. This superhuman monster-level physique, how can it be that the body is about to decay and die? Has Fury arrived at the manor yet? Kyle asked, exerting force on his wrist, turning half a circle in the air vigorously, and standing back to the ground steadily. Yes, I'm ready to, and I can take a job with S.H.I.E.L.D. Natasha took a deep breath and said with difficulty. With her extraordinary super agent physique, her body movements were sluggish under the pull of 12 times the gravity, and slowly. Kyle nodded, and said to the radio in the room that could receive voice commands, Jarvis, turn off the gravity and switch to cleaning mode. Okay, Master, Jarvis' voice sounded, and according to the programmed system settings, the indoor gravity field was quickly turned off. Just as Natasha breathed a sigh of relief, she stood up easily from the floor of the room, and the clear water from above her had drenched her heart. But it was the ceiling of the gravity room that turned on several showers, causing heavy rain in the room all of a sudden. 10 seconds later, the watering in the gravity chamber stopped, and dry hot air blew from the four walls. Kyle has simply bathed to clean up the stains, and drew out a venom card to summon, and the symbiosis transformed into a set of hooded casual clothes. Putting on the hanging ring on the finger of his left hand, Kyle cast a spell, opened the teleportation portal leading to the conference room on the second floor of the manor, and urged, let's go. I will arrange a bright way out for you, and everything will depend on your own destiny in the future. Yes, Natasha quickly answered, simply twisted her wet hair with her hands, followed Kyle's pace, and entered the floating and rotating shining portal. Chapter 152 Digging a Pit. On the outskirts of New York, the former site of the Carl family estate, the conference hall on the second floor. Hello, Master. Seeing the gorgeous portal suddenly appear from the room, two well-trained maidservants stepped forward quickly, with respect and joy on their faces, bowed their heads and stood on both sides of the portal to greet them and wait for instructions. As if hearing the sound, the bald black man who had been sitting on the conference sofa waiting for a long time got up. His blind left eye was covered with a black eye patch, and only the right eye was left with a slightly sharp gaze. Go get that bottle of red wine that Howard has stored here. After coming out of the portal, Kelsey ordered the servants to go down, and when he looked up to see his familiar old friend, a sunny and gentle smile appeared on his handsome face. Fury, I haven't seen you in a few months. Yeah. Fury shook his head with emotion, and he let go of his usual serious expression as the director, and smiled bitterly. It's not thanks to you, but the position of director of S.H.I.E.L.D. tired and troublesome. With that said, Fury walked up to Kyle, patted his shoulders with both hands, and said sadly and frustrated, Kyle, Howard has already talked to me on the phone about your body. Sorry, you have all the resources I have. Yes, you have resources that I don't have. And now you gave me the position of S.H.I.E.L.D. I really don't know how to help you. It's not your fault, let alone you. No one on this planet can help me. Kyle shrugged and said, only I can save myself. Are you leaving soon? Fury asked with a gloomy expression on his already dark face. Kyle didn't hide from him, and answered bluntly, counting today, there are 3 days left. On the third night, I will try to use some means to leave the Earth. 3 days, so, Furui seemed to have something on his mind. So he didn't continue. Let's not talk about this topic anymore. I brought someone here. Kyle gestured sideways, still in the spark wheel-shaped portal, and the red-haired and coquettish Natasha walked out behind, leaving wet hair on the floor footprint. I know, Natasha Romanoff, an elite agent of the Soviet Red Chamber, with a friendly smile on his face. Fury walked towards Natasha, stretched out his hand and said, the last time I saw you, It was during World War II. On the battleship, you were seriously injured by Kyle. In the consultation room, I arrange people to do it. My name is Natasha Carl now, Natasha responded angrily, and gave Fury a cold look. She didn't like Fury very much, so she never found out her previous dark history when they first met. Let's get to know each other. From now on, you will be partners in S.H.I.E.L.D. Under Kyle's words, Natasha nodded helplessly, while Fury said cheerfully and satisfied, it's very good, there is a super agent who can be entrusted with trust and take care of each other. Much more at ease, after the three of them sat comfortably on the conference sofa, the maid brought up the red wine, poured each glass, and retreated. Kyle gracefully raised the goblet, shook the mellow red wine, and asked, why, are you not at ease as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Fury didn't answer, took a sip of red wine sullenly, and said solemnly, Kyle, you are really right, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not that simple. The goal is to wipe out and eradicate the Hydra organization. But inside, many of the management and personnel are elite talents drawn from various agencies and departments of the U.S. government and military, and the relationship between the various departments has been very intricate since it was first established. Do you suspect that there are Hydra spies inside? Kyle asked calmly. It's not a suspicion, it must be there. And there is one, which I have recently discovered vigilantly. It is my new secretary, the staff member I get along with almost every day. When Fury said this, he sighed angrily, and said apologetically to Kyle, I was careless. I have dealt with Hydra so much, but I still underestimated their penetration and latent capabilities. Kyle is not surprised by this. The S.H.I.E.L.D. in the original book is still half of Hydra's den of thieves, and the situation is not bad now. He pondered for a moment, then asked again, have you got rid of that spy? Not yet. After seeing you, I still want to use that little mouse to find out more lurking personnel, Fury said coldly. His one-eyed eagle was sharp and majestic, and he already had the future S.H.I.E.L.D. a domineering prototype of the chief. It's not that simple. Kyle smiled on the contrary, pondered and said, after you went back, you accidentally revealed to the little mouse that the nuclear radiation in my body caused my body to become seriously ill and disabled. A message about recuperating in seclusion. 2 days later, I will move out of here and live on an unknown island. Are you trying to lure them here? Fury understood Kyle's thoughts when he heard it. Kyle nodded and said, Hydra organization, one head is broken, and another head grows out. On the eve of the day I leave the Earth, if they dare to come, then none of them will even think about going back. Natasha raised her hand and interjected, this trap wouldn't be too obvious. The Hydra people shouldn't be fooled. It doesn't matter if you come or not, it's just an attempt. Kyle raised his legs and leaned on the back of the sofa soothingly. His blue eyes shone with shrewd wisdom, and half of the information Fury revealed to them is true, with half-truths and half-false important information, coupled with the attraction of killing me as a symbol of peace. I believe there will still be some idiots who will come to your door, not only the remnants of the Hydra organization. Maybe they will persuade other forces to come together and give me a big surprise. Kyle raised the corner of his mouth, using himself as a bait to set up a trap, with a faint sense of expectation. He was really looking forward to more enemies coming and offering their lives as a farewell gift. Natasha nodded approvingly. Indeed, if it is known that you have a physical problem, even if the reliability is only 1/10, someone from the Red Room must try to send many agents over. It's not just the Red House of the Soviet Union, but also the German Nash, Russian warriors, ninjas. In other words, your hatred value in their minds has exceeded the upper limit. Fury laughed dumbly. On the eve of my departure, welcome them to the manor. Kyle chuckled, wishing he could send the invitation to them. Who is not convinced? Don't hold back, don't delay the grievances of this era. They should be resolved directly and happily. By the way, there is one more thing. I don't know if I should tell you. Fury looked hesitant. Under Kyle's surprised gaze, he hesitated and said, Peggy Carter. Do you remember, Carter? This name seems to have awakened Kyle's memories. Of course he didn't forget that the first rare green card at the turning point in his life was drawn from her. She is a comrade in arms, old friend, and Steve's entrusted person. Chapter 153 New Elements. What's wrong with Carter? Is she doing well? Kyle asked. Steve hadn't seen Carter since the plane crash and disappeared alone, after the last late party, and it had been almost a year since then. If you ask me about the specific situation, I don't know much about it. Fury spread his hands and said slowly, I only know that she only stayed at the training base for half a month during the Normandy landing campaign. For some reasons at home, After applying for resignation from General Chester, he returned to his residence in New York. She actually retired earlier than me. Kyle's eyes were complicated, and after a moment of silence, she asked, "Is she married?" Natasha raised her head in surprise. This was the first time she saw the patriarch have personal feelings for a woman other than the Carl family. In fact, Kyle didn't ask this question for himself. Probably not yet, but she is not young, and it is not surprising to get married, Fury said as a matter of course. It's not surprising, Kyle nodded calmly, raised his head and drank the red wine in the glass in one gulp. Although Carter is an elite U.S. agent, she is just an ordinary person, an outstanding woman with agility. Now even if Steve is dead or alive, why let people wait until his beauty fades, his body weakens, and he endures the long suffering of 10 years and 10 years alone? Carter is not Lucy after all. Instead of asking her to wait without hope, it is better to help her and let her live a happy life. Kyle, Fury broke Kyle's thinking, and said in a deep voice, "You are going to risk your life to leave the Earth. Are you sure you don't want to see her? To put it bluntly, this may be the last time you, isn't it also for this reason that you invited me to meet?" This sentence touched Kyle a little. He put down the cup in his hand, made a decision and said, "Okay, before I leave, I will go and see her." In terms of emotion and reason, he has no reason to leave without saying goodbye. And now that he has enough financial resources and ability, he can give Carter everything he wants. If Carter is determined to wait for Steve to come back, he can even give her the youth and lifespan to survive for centuries. Isn't that right? Fury's domineering face showed a little smile, and he quickly reached into the pocket of the black windbreaker, and took out a black and white photo of the house between his fingers. Carter is still with parents live together. This is the address of her home. Within these 3 days, pick a time to go there, and say goodbye. Are you counting on me? Kyle's face was slightly cold, and he looked at Fury with a half smile. That's not, well, I think it's almost time. I should go back to the game and implement the trap plan. Fury laughed, put the photo on the table in front of the sofa, got up and left the sofa, and signaled Natasha to follow him and leave. This old fritter, Kyle laughed dumbly, put away the photo, sat on the sofa without moving, and only said with his back to the door, "Both of you, see you soon." Hearing his words, Fury and Natasha, who were about to walk to the door, paused. Fury clenched his fists, suppressed his inner emotions, took a deep breath, and responded steadily, "Be careful along the way. And there is, please come back." After bidding farewell to Natasha and Fury, Kyle opened the portal and returned to the island base. As soon as he returned to the basement floor of the fortress, he saw several young cadets rushing forward in a panic. "Patriarch, it's not good. The great inventor has gone crazy." "Howard is crazy? Tell me clearly." When Kyle heard this, he couldn't help being stunned. It was less than half an hour since he went out, so what happened to Howard's behavior? One of the Carters reported, "We saw the great inventor in the scientific research room on the second floor of the basement, his body trembling, his expression frantic, and he was jumping and rolling and making strange noises." "I see, you guys go down." Kyle nodded. The elevator was no longer used, and he used spells to open the portal to save time. The portal took shape in about 3 seconds, and as soon as it was connected to the main scientific research room on the lower floor, Howard's cheerful laughter and the noisy sounds of various beating instruments came from there. Kyle frowned, set off and stepped into the scientific research room, scanning his eyes for confirmation. I saw that the original wide empty floor of the general scientific research room was full of laser-emitting instruments, acceleration pipes, triangular frames, etc., which were fixed together in various and orderly combinations, and redundant tool parts were scattered on the ground beside them. Howard, who was dressed in a white protective suit, was dirty from hair to feet, and was sitting in the middle of a pile of acceleration pipes, beating the metal pipes excitedly with iron pliers, laughing constantly. "Howard," Kyle said. Howard turned around sharply, cheered and said, "Kyle, I succeeded. I finally succeeded." "What succeeded? Could it be?" Kyle opened his eyes wide. As if to confirm his guess, Howard picked up a cube storage box made of glass. Inside the bottle was stored a small unknown energy substance, which was shining with a dazzling blue and white light. Kyle's eyes were attracted by the familiar light, and he stepped forward to take the storage box containing energy substances, and the relevant card information came into view. New element crystal block, a new element crystal block that has not yet been named blue item card. As an isotope similar to the original cosmic stone, It is a high-efficiency energy element that can only be produced by using high technology and artificially accelerating particle collisions. This element is very stable, reliable, and non-polluting, and it contains an unimaginable amount of energy. Even a small crystal of elemental energy can supply the iron suit for half a day's battle. Howard, I really have you, Kyle sighed, looking at the brand new element crystal block that did not exist in this era and was created 5 or 60 years in advance. This is the core energy of the future steel suit, which completely defeats the Hydra organization, which relies on the infinite energy created by the Rubik's Cube. With so many resources in hand, plus the support of Wakanda's Ministry of Science and Technology, if I still can't make it, then I will live up to your expectations. Howard smiled, looking at the results in Kyle's hands full of expectations, urged, Kyle, please give this element a name. I named it. Kyle pointed to his nose. This is a new element that you designed and worked hard to create? All of this is due to you. The elemental design drawings were found out from the Rubik's Cube you brought back, and the production resources were also obtained through your cooperation with Wakanda. Howard said without regret. Then I will name it. Kyle pondered. His eyes were full of blue light due to the crystallization of elements. After thinking for a while, he finally decided to say, let's call it Krypton Gold. 154 The eve of leaving. New York, Brooklyn, Halen Street. As a symbol of peace, the hometown of hometown, and the branch of Stark Industries settled in. After the end of World War II, in less than a few months, Halen Street has become a bustling street with the fastest economic recovery in downtown New York. Every day, many tourists visit the site of Kyle's hometown outside the wall. Among them, there is a vast open space in the street area that has been heavily developed recently. It is protected by a high-voltage power grid, and a new high-tech skyscraper is built inside. It is rumored that a mysterious department recognized by the state has settled in. Military officers and politicians often come in and out of it, and the vehicles for travel are military fighter planes and bulletproof cars. In front of the skyscraper open space, on the left is Kyle, the symbol of peace holding a sword, and on the right is Captain America Steve, carrying a shield. Both are 5-meter-high metal statues, standing side by side. This is SHIELD headquarters. At this time, there is a closed pantry on the 12th floor of the building. Through the soundproof bulletproof glass door, one can see from the outside to the inside that there happen to be 3 people resting inside, a middle-aged man with a high-level management, a secretary in a black suit, and a security guard on an exclusive floor. Some of them were smoking, some were making coffee, and some were chatting with their mobile phones. They sat apart scattered, seemingly unrelated to each other, doing their own things. And if someone opened the door of the tea room and heard the undisguised discussion of the 3 people inside, they would be too terrified to contain themselves. The monitoring of this tea room has been changed. No one will come in during this period of time. Let me know if you find anything. Naturally, there are discoveries, very important discoveries. About Kyle, peace symbol, the faces of the executives and security guards changed slightly. Even though they knew that it would be bad to be seen by colleagues passing by outside, it was still difficult to calm down the fear and horror in their hearts. For them, the man called the symbol of peace is a taboo among taboos, and his real name is generally not mentioned. The secretary took a deep breath and said solemnly, in the morning, the director went out alone, saying that he was visiting his comrades in arms. In fact, he went to Manor to visit the man, and brought back the Black Widow who defected from the Soviet Red House. After he retired, he almost disappeared. A few months ago, it seemed that he only went to the Red House of the Soviet Union to make a scene. Why mention him? After Ivan's death, we have absolutely no ability to move him now. The executives in Anbaya were slightly dissatisfied and whispered, even if they knew the whereabouts of the peace symbol, it would be impossible to deal with that godlike and powerful man. The Red Skull, Ivan, etc. of the Hydra organization are a lesson from the past. One disappeared and the other was kicked to death on the spot. Maybe, capable. The secretary squinted his eyes and whispered. These words forced the executives and security guards to look at him subconsciously, not understanding what he meant. The secretary lowered his voice and continued, I also got a piece of important news from the director, which is related to the physical condition of the peace symbol. I heard that he has not completely escaped the radiation damage of the nuclear bomb, and is now in the manor bedridden. What did you say? The security guard showed shock on his face, and quickly regained his composure. Wait, the executive kept calm, and asked in a deep voice, how likely is this information to be true? Also, Have you sent someone to monitor and check the manor, whether it's true or not? The problem is, that man will move out of the manor in less than 3 days. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the secretary grinned, with madness in his eyes. If we can kill the peace symbol, maybe it can set off chaos in the world again. Moreover, judging from the director's various signs, this information has a half probability of being true. The secretary was afraid that the two would flinch, so he added another sentence. The security guards and the executives exchanged glances. This was undoubtedly a huge gamble, but if the bet was won, the Hydra organization would be able to take revenge. Do you want to gather all of our surviving armed combat forces around the world? Bet on the future of Hydra. The executives had lingering fears, recalling the tragedy of the organization's personnel in the past. This is naturally impossible. We have enough armed personnel from Hydra, the secretary smiled sullenly, and suggested, don't forget, with the killings that man carried out during the war, it's not just us, there are also many people who want him to die. That's right. We can pass this information to certain organizations and try to cooperate with them once, kill the symbol of peace. If it can be. 3 S.H.I.E.L.D. staff with different identities, in the tea room of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s newly built building, directly talked and discussed the topic of killing peace symbols. This may be something that even Fury dare not think about. But for this trap, the spies of the Hydra organization naturally stretched out their heads and put it on, waiting for the moment to draw the rope. Under the turbulence of the Earth's undercurrent, 2 days passed quickly. Kyle's estimated time to leave Earth is approaching. The day before the departure, in the outskirts of New York, the former site of the family estate was located. It was afternoon, and the sun had not yet set. The golden sunlight was like a thin coat, obliquely draping over the manor building and the surrounding dense woods, and the elongated shadows were colorful and intertwined. Kyle stood in front of the window covered by the curtains. In the conference hall behind him, Yutong wearing a hooded black windbreaker sat on a chair, shaking his white and tender legs hanging in the air, and his eyes flickered with silver light under the idea of maintaining. Boss. Within 100 meters of the manor, there are 2 people hiding in the forest. The distance is too far to read their thoughts. Yutong's answer was cold and immature. It should be spies. Don't worry about them. Kyle shrugged boringly. Boss. Logan walked into the room from the corridor and announced, the new trainees and servants in the original manor have all been secretly transferred out through the portal, and there are only 3 of us left here. Very well, if they really want to attack, they should choose the night when the night falls. Kyle looked at the clock on the wall. It was about 2 hours before night, and he said, I'll go see someone first. You stay in the manor, and everyone who comes in will be killed, and no one will be left alive. Okay, trying to assassinate the boss in vain, I will use Murasame to string their corpses together. Yutong nodded obediently, and the Risen knife on the back slowly floated out of its sheath turn. I hope they can come in sooner. Logan's face was grim, leaning against the wall by the door, his right hand clenched into a fist with power, and 3 bright and sharp metal claws stretched out, a bit like 3 blades piercing into a fist. On the end of the fist, the 2 top combat forces of the Carl family are stationed here. Whoever enters this room tonight will know how big the surprise will be. Kyle trusted Yutong and Logan extremely, opened the portal, stepped in, and disappeared from the conference hall of the manor across the space. Chapter 155 One Kiss. New York, Queens, near the suburbs. As the sun sets, the clouds in the western sky are dyed a bright red, and the breeze gently blows down the hillside and the concrete road. The yellow wheat fields on both sides of the road are like ripples in the waves of the sea. Farmers in 2s and 3s are working in the wheat fields, while sweating. Their faces are full of contented happiness. Just after World War II, people yearn for and cherish the beautiful and comfortable life more and more. Dots of sparks died out in the sun, and in the middle of the empty road, a silver-haired young man appeared. At some point the hood covered most of his hair and face, and his tall figure was dressed in a stylish black leather jacket and jeans. Whether it is a perfect appearance or a cold temperament, it is easy to attract the attention of farmers. Looking around the vast wheat field, the silver-haired young man lowered his head, glanced at the photo of the residential building in his hand, and frowned. But he didn't expect that even the magic spell would be ineffective due to the abnormality of his body, so he didn't come to the photo exact place. Young man, what can I do for you? A middle-aged couple came out of the nearby wheat field with kind faces and asked kindly. Excuse me, do you know where Peggy Carter lives? Holding up the photo in his hand, and showing it to the 2 couples who came forward, the silver-haired young man asked calmly. Peggy Carter, The faces of the middle-aged couple changed. They looked at each other, and looked at the silver-haired young man again with less gentle eyes and more vigilance. Among them, the bearded uncle raised his eyebrows, squeezed the agricultural equipment in his hand, and said in a slightly stern tone, "Who are you? You used to be in the military. How many times have I told you that Peggy will never go back to work?" "Gone. I used to be in the military, but I retired a long time ago," the silver-haired young man shrugged, not wanting to talk too much nonsense and explain, and said succinctly, "She and I are comrades in arms and are about to leave New York, so I came to visit." "So," the peasant woman hesitated, and the bearded uncle next to her shook her head, put the farm tools on the ground, and refused. "If you have anything to say, just tell us, and we will convey it to you. Peggy is resting, don't you? It is convenient to meet guests." Rejected by decisive words, the silver-haired young man didn't seem to be angry, nodded, and asked, "I don't know if you two are." The middle-aged couple was about to answer when suddenly a sweet and cold female voice came from not far behind. "Father, Mother, what's wrong?" Wearing an elegant lady's hat, a woman in a Western-style corset and casual suit, with a basket in her hand, stood tall and straight at the corner of the wheat field road in a military posture. "Ah, Peggy, why are you here?" the peasant woman exclaimed, trotting towards the woman. With a bang, the bearded uncle dropped the farm tools in his hand, followed the peasant woman nervously, and verbally reprimanded him. "I told you not to go out." The concerned expressions on their faces made Peggy smile slightly, and she lifted the basket and said, "Here's food for you, just let your brother take out the things." The middle-aged couple chattered for a while, as if remembering the existence of outsiders, and reminded in a low voice, "By the way, someone who claims to be your former comrade in arms came to you." "Brother in arms?" Paige was taken aback for a moment, and she raised her beautiful eyes. When her eyes fell on the silver-haired young man who was 10 meters away, standing coldly in the same place, she felt as if she had been struck by lightning, and her delicate body couldn't help shaking violently. "Carter, long time no see." The silver-haired young man raised his head, revealing his handsome face under the hood, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. "Yes, long time no see. Kyle." Peggy couldn't hide her inner emotions, and said with a trembling tone. "Or," the bearded uncle repeated with deep familiarity. His eyes widened suddenly, and he looked at the silver-haired young man in shock. Who is he?" Peggy's mother also changed face, a symbol of peace. "This can no longer be described as a big man. He is a godlike superhero who should only live in war epics." "Excuse me, can you lend me Carter for a while? I'll leave after a few words." Kyle spoke. His gentle words contained a touch of majesty and unquestionability. In the vast fields, on the path full of flowers and plants, Kyle and Carter walked side by side, silent and aimless. Slightly tilting his gaze from the corner of his eyes, Kyle's eyes fell on Carter. It has been a year since he saw her. This woman's figure seems to be a little plumper than before. She has a delicate face without much makeup, and her lips are only painted with a bright red lipstick. Beautiful and glamorous. With a chuckle, Carter broke the silence and said, "Seeing my parents' surprised and admiring looks just now reminded me of the time I saw you for the first time 2 or 3 years ago. You were almost kicked out at that time, a rookie in the training camp. Who would have thought that he would now become a legendary role model that the military is proud of, a symbol of world peace?" "Unfortunately, I also remembered that at that time, you were the sexy detective who observed me and Steve." Blinking, Kyle rarely joked. "Who knows? A superhero covered in glory is actually a gangster, trapped in memories of the past." Carter spat lightly, his cheeks turning pink in embarrassment under the sun. It's all a misunderstanding," Kyle wondered to himself. It's been long enough to help Venom. "By the way," Kyle seemed to recall the scene just now, looked at Carter solemnly and asked, "Why did you resign? Seeing that your parents are so nervous, are they sick?" "No, I'm just tired of working in the military, so I chose to go back home to live a stable life. My family members are all like this, and their caring for others is just too exaggerated." A ripple flashed in his eyes, and Carter replied blankly, "It's fine. Before Steve crashed, let me take care of you. If something happens to you, I won't feel at ease when I leave." Kyle chuckled lightly. These words made Carter's face darken, and he stepped forward again. After a pause, he turned his head quickly and asked in surprise, "Leave? Where are you going?" "I'm about to leave New York, America, and go to a distant place," Kyle said with a calm face, neither happy nor sad. "When will you be back then?" Carter asked after taking a deep breath. I don't know, maybe I will come back, maybe I won't come back. With a faint smile, Kyle looked at Carter and said in a deep voice, I have asked Howard to sign the document and transferred $100 million to your personal bank account. You can go to the central bank to formally extract it. In addition, after I go back, I will be notified of Fury and Joseph to intervene, and no one from the military will come to disturb you. You can live any life you want. As he spoke, Kyle raised his right hand, sandwiched 2 life-enhancing cards invisible to others, and swung them forward. The cards quickly sank into Carter's body and took effect immediately. The 2 rare blue life-enhancing cards add up to a 60-year natural lifespan blessing. According to the original movie, Carter's longevity of more than 90 years old, it is more than enough to live until the middle of the next century. Why only add life cards? This is also a deliberate decision by Kyle. Steve couldn't give Peggy Carter the life he wanted, and it was even less likely that he would. Whether to continue to wait for a long time, or live an ordinary life in peace and happiness, it all depends on Carter's personal wish. I understand. Peggy smiled slightly, sexy and delicate like a rose, suddenly took a step forward, hugged Kyle, and kissed his cheek near the corner of her mouth like a dragonfly. Take it as my farewell, thank you. Kyle only felt the fragrant wind blowing, leaving a little moisture on his face. Peggy had turned around and walked a few steps forward, turning her back to him and said, let's go. Take care. Kyle nodded after accidentally touching the place where he was kissed just now, and opened the portal by casting a spell on the spot. Looking at the beautiful figure behind Carter, he suddenly had a strong feeling in his heart. After this farewell, he might never see the woman in front of him again. But soon, Kyle put aside his messy thoughts and stepped into the portal decisively. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, Night of Vengeance. The sun set, and the dark and cold night fell on the forest as expected. Only the lights inside the manor overflowed, like a faint halo of light to disperse the night. After returning to the manor, Kyle sat on the chair in the owner's office on the second floor. Yutong stood beside him obediently, and manipulated the red wine bottle to float above the table with his mind, and poured the wine obliquely, and the red wine poured into the goblet. Not even a drop splashed out. What's the situation outside? Raising his glass and taking a sip of wine, Kyle asked Yutong's soft long black hair. Within, meters of the manor, there are nearly, people hiding in the forest, and there should be more people, meters away, Yutong replied softly, squinting his eyes comfortably like a cat. I guess they can't bear it anymore. Kyle chuckled, put his fingers on the table, and tapped gently and rhythmically. Boom boom boom, like the sound of a countdown pendulum. The ringing stopped abruptly, and Yutong slightly opened his bright eyes and said, here we come. As soon as the words fell, there were continuous explosions outside the manor, and more than a dozen rockets with a loud and clear tail smashed through the balcony window, and when they fell into the room and were about to explode, they stopped suddenly. Zizzy. The flames and smoke from the tail were still erupting, and the rocket shells rushing into the office stopped completely, trembling and suspended in the air in the room, as if blocked out of thin air by some mysterious force. I'll return it to you, the silver eyes flashed, and Yutong waved his little hand, and the shells spun around in unison, and quickly returned according to the trajectory they were fired from, and disappeared into the night outside the manor. Immediately afterwards, the explosion of external bombs resounded throughout, and the curtains were blown up with explosive waves, which vaguely contained the screams of many people. It's like the opening of the war tonight, and the assault battle is about to start. After the joint team that planned to kill Kyle knew that they had been exposed, the armed men rushed out of the forest and rushed into the main building of the manor. Boom. The first main gate of the manor with low defense was smashed by a high explosive grenade, and smoke bombs were thrown into it as a cover. Dozens of armed men wearing black combat uniforms, or holding swords, or holding guns rushed in. Hearing the loud noise from downstairs, Kyle was unmoved, leaned back on the chair with a calm face, raised the goblet, sipped the red wine and enjoyed it. Yutong didn't even have the slightest intention of going downstairs. She closed her eyes, searching with all her will to watch out for the enemy attack from the second floor. The second floor is your battlefield as for the first floor. What monster? Kill him quickly. The explosion of the grenade, the dense intertwined gunshots, and the extremely tragic screams. There was no sign of stopping just after the sound, from the lobby on the first floor downstairs, to Kyle's ears through the flooring the office door. Not long after Logan's body was implanted with the adamantium metal, I just sharpened his claws, swaying the goblet gently. Kyle's face was indifferent, like a demon who is used to fighting in life and death, and he seemed to be killing downstairs. Under the tragic atmosphere of the storm, he tasted the bright red wine by himself. At this time, the hall on the first floor of the manor. The large and luxurious glass lamps kept flickering, so that the light and shadow in the already smoky room became blurred, and more than a dozen dismembered corpses lay messily in a pool of blood. Most of the deadly wounds on the corpses were on the neck and chest, simple and direct, basically killing with one blow. Accompanied by intense gunshots and screams, there were more members of the joint team who were attacked by the enemy and broke into the manor, and fell to the red carpet on the floor one after another. What's going on here? Did that man shoot it? Sweat like soybeans flowed into the eye sockets on his forehead, and the tall white man didn't dare to blink his eyes, and he firmly grasped the dark metallic assault rifle. As the team leader of the mission to attack Kyle, he is one of the members of the Hydra organization and the team leader who broke through the defense of the manor head-on. The target of this temporary enemy attack is a symbol of peace. The remnants of the Hydra organization are the main ones. In addition, those who participated in this secret joint operation include the elite agents of the Red House of the Soviet Union, and the samurai and ninjas of the Rising Ninja organization. The members are all good at attacking and raiding, but now, just after breaking into the first floor of the manor, he was unilaterally slaughtered by a single enemy. Peace symbol, is that you? Come out, the team leader roared, while slowly retreating towards the team at the main gate of the manor. You bastards are also worthy of the patriarch. With a cold snort, a vicissitudes old man with long hair rushed out of the smoke. His body blew a strong wind at high speed, dispersed the smoke, ignored everyone else, and kept approaching the team leader alone. He came out. Shoot me. The team leader laughed ferociously, and pulled the trigger fiercely. The muzzle of the rifle continued to blaze. The dozens of gunmen around him reacted very quickly, and also aimed at Logan to shoot, immediately forming a hail of bullets. With a sneer, Logan had no intention of retreating. Like a reckless man who is not afraid of death, he rushed forward against the bullets. When he was in the air, his blood-stained fist stretched out three sharp and white metal claws. Receiving countless bullets hard in his chest, Logan charged in front of the squad leader. The grin on the squad leader's face turned to astonishment. Just look at the flash of a knife, the smooth swing of the sharp claws, the hot barrel of the rifle, and the neck of the squad leader, all cut a flat incision, and broke in two, bloody and cruel. Gritting his teeth, Logan let out a low growl like a beast. The bullet that hit his body just now was squeezed out quickly under the control of his muscles, and fell to the ground with a jingle. The bullet hole in his body healed before bleeding. Another monster who is not afraid of bullets. Someone gasped and said something, and the eyes of the United staff in the lobby on the first floor were filled with despair. On the other side, the office on the second floor of the manor. Yu Tuang opened his eyes aware of it, and saw three ninjas all dressed in black, each carrying a Nissan knife, rushing in from the balcony with a broken glass window like a ghost. The man at the head of the ninja team, with fluttering sleeves, apparently had an arm broken. Demon Kyle. Finally, let me see you again. His words were hoarse as if he had crawled out of hell. The man opened his face mask with one arm, and stared at Kyle on the chair with his sinister eyes. Isn't this Hojo Maru, an old acquaintance? Kyle, who had been in low spirits, finally raised his head, looked at the one-armed ninja standing indoors, smiled and said, you didn't die, and you came to give me a gift again, knife, baga. Hojo Maru couldn't help but burst into a mouthful of his own national curse, and was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. In the previous battle at Hojo Gymnasium, he was cut off by Kyle's sodium carbon steel murasame. He was in such pain that he was scalded and injected with nerve-paralyzing poison to stop the bleeding. He went out and went back for treatment. Unexpectedly, as soon as he walked about, meters away, the area where the Hojo gym was located turned into a huge bottomless hole, like a sinkhole, which evaporated the ninja team and tens of thousands of soldiers. A new chapter will be published tomorrow, which means the end of the second volume. The content of the second volume is from the end of World War II until the protagonist leaves the Earth. Some readers say why they haven't left the Earth yet, such as water. Is the family betting gone? Black Panther, Howard, S-H-I-E-L-D, Carter, all of them are directly mentioned, skipping the plot of The Earth Without Thinking? The second volume is indeed much flatter than the first volume, and the foreshadowing and transition are much longer, but this is a must for this book to go far. If the book has thousands of chapters, you won't say that the 20 or 30 chapters are very long up. This book strives for perfection. As long as there is a main character who has appeared, there will be arrangements, otherwise the map will not be changed at will. That's it, the starry sky will roll tomorrow, and if the status comes up, it will be restored to the third watch. Chapter 157, Burying the Enemy. Kyle was sitting on a chair, accompanied by Yutong standing beside him, confronting the three Rising ninjas who broke in. There's indeed a problem with your body. That's how it should be. Rising paid such a heavy price, how can you get out of it unscathed? With a smirk, Hojo Maru twisted his facial muscles, looked at Kyle's old and weak silver hair, and with his remaining left hand pulled out the Risen knife on his back. Tonight, I will use you to perform a blood sacrifice for the sake of thousands of citizens of Japan. Injustice, have you finished talking nonsense? Let's start quickly. Yawning boredly, Kyle didn't intend to make a move himself. He reached out and rubbed Yutong's little head beside him, and said, "Go, play with him." Yutong nodded lightly, stepped forward with small steps, and stood in front of the three ninjas who drew their swords alone. "Just rely on her, are you joking?" The corner of Hojo Maru's mouth twitched, and the anger of being humiliated rose again in his eyes full of hatred and coldness. No matter how you look at it from the appearance, what you see in front of you is a cute girl who is harmless to humans and animals, short and immature and has no combat capabilities. Let Yutong take action, I already think highly of you. Kyle smiled. It seems that these ninjas are eager to come to revenge, but they haven't figured out the situation yet. Let's go together. Hojo Maru stared at Yutong gloomily and said coldly. The other two ninjas glanced at each other, nodded quickly, and then followed Hojo Maru. The three of them rushed forward with swords bouncing like they had rehearsed countless times. At the same time, their hands turned into afterimages, and after several bursts of wind sounded, sharp and small throwing objects such as darts and flying needles formed the first dangerous killing ray at a speed comparable to bullets. Seeing this scene, Kyle, who was sitting behind Yutong, shook his head, as if he had seen the result. Raising her little hand forward, Yutong's eyes flickered with cold silver light, and the powerful brain ideal was embodied. With her body as the center, it stirred outward like a translucent energy wave, and even the indoor space rippled. In an instant, the time and space in the entire office had the illusion of stagnation. The flying needles and darts were all hovering half a meter in front of Yutong, and the three ninjas who were still in the posture of diving forward, their bodies were constantly slowing down. No matter how hard you try, you can't break through a step forward. What's going on here? The hand holding the Risen knife trembled, and Hojo Maru held his breath with difficulty, as if there was an invisible air wall separating them from the wall. Don't get close to the boss again. The silver light in the pupils flourished, and Yutong moved his hands outward, pushing the extraordinary thoughts that formed the essence. With a buzzing sound, a series of hidden weapons of flying needles and darts, together with the three sword-wielding ninjas directly behind, were all thrown back suddenly. After tumbling a dozen times in the air, their bodies collided with each other on the balcony on the second floor. "It's over." Yutong's soft and childish words seemed to be an order from the god of death at this time. Under the impetus of the invisible thought, the village rain beside him floated out of thin air, and turned into a stream of light with its own power. No. Hojo Maru opened his eyes wide, his face distorted and ferocious. He was not reconciled, and rushed here all the way, but before Kyle even made a move, he was about to lie here and turn into a corpse. Murasame cut through the air and rushed straight to the three people on the ground. At the very moment, a stern look flashed in Hojo Maru's eyes, and he quickly and decisively reached out, grabbed a ninja behind him, and raised the shield as a flesh-pad shield in front of him. PFFT. With an exclamation, the ninja showed despair, watched Murasame whizzing towards him, and easily inserted himself into the center of his chest until he reached the hilt of his sword. "Damn it," Hojo Maru growled, threw the ninja corpse in his hand out of the balcony, and roared into the night outside. "How long are you going to wait for? Oh, are there any other accomplices?" Hearing this, Kyle took a sip of the red wine, not surprised by this. He raised his head and saw several spikes connected with ropes, thrown from the outside and wrapped around the remaining stone pillar fence of the balcony, and then four female agents in tight black leather clothes grabbed the ropes, pulled them lightly and landed on the side of Hojo Maru on the balcony. Super Agent, Red Room, you really haven't learned your lesson. Kyle's face was cold. The last time I saw their sincerity in dedicating the Black Widow and Infinity Formula, and for the sake of Bucky the Winter Soldier, they did not wantonly destroy the Red Room organization base in the end. Now it is estimated that the Red House has moved the location of the base, and the scar is healed and the pain is forgotten. That's it. In the future, the goals of the Carl family's grassroots catcher will be used to practice their hands. Let's focus on the Hydra organization and the Red House Secret Service. It just so happens that the Red House also has Super Agent serum potions. Kyle was thinking about his own calculations, and at this time, Yutong and the 6 enemies had already fought in the office. Bullets from guns, darts from hidden weapons, village rain from cold weapons, and indoor wooden tables and benches. Countless objects form a chaotic mess of a storm, colliding with each other from time to time and bursting open, or hitting the floor and wall with deviation physically. Whether it is a ninja or super agent, their strength is between the Black Widow Natasha and the elite soldiers. That is, they are all above ordinary humans. But Yutong faced the 6 people who launched the offensive alone. His face was calm and cold, and the silver light in his eyes showed signs of turning red. Get out of here, Hojo Village roared, breaking through the defense line of the suspended object covered in bruises, flying close to Yutong, and slashing the Risen knife quickly and accurately. Yutong raised his eyes coldly, and a table flew over out of thin air, acting as a shield to block the sword attack, but the Risen knife from Bishio Village cut the table in two, and the knife flashed, and the tip of the knife rushed straight to her fair neck. Seeing that he was about to successfully kill the opponent, Hojo Village's face was filled with joy, but the next moment, Yutong quickly and deftly dodged sideways, and Risen knife only cut off a few black hair strands in vain. The Hojo villager was still in the air, and Yutong grabbed his one-armed wrist holding the sword with both hands, spun around in a circle, and smashed Hojo Village's body to the floor. How is this possible? Bishio Village's mind was blank, and before he could react, he felt the pain and wailed, but it was Yutong who snatched the Risen knife in his hand, and cut a fatal wound on his chest with a deep bone visible, and the blood flowed out like a spring gush. This is Yutong now, Kyle chuckled, feeling gratified and satisfied with the Yutong he had cultivated. The mind control ability is too powerful, so powerful that the enemy will intuitively mistakenly think that Yutong is only good at long-range attacks, but they don't know that she also has the extraordinary physique of a super agent and several fighting skills. Yutong, who has comprehensive abilities and no weaknesses, can completely replace Kyle and become the best candidate with the ability to rule the earth in the current era. Hojo Maru fell, and the stalemate on the second floor suddenly became clear. Yutong began to kill unilaterally, and the remaining ninjas and agents fled frantically when they saw the situation. Don't let anyone escape, Kyle said in a cold voice. Kyle drank the glass of red wine and looked at the fleeing enemies indifferently. Since you rushed over to bid farewell, then leave your life and body behind, and bury here with the grievances of this era. Chapter 158 Rainbow Bridge, Goodbye Earth. A long night passed. The main building of the manor was so damaged that it almost collapsed. The smell of blood and gunpowder smoke was strong on the first and second floors. Hundreds of corpses were piled up in every corner inside and outside the manor. As soon as dawn broke in the morning, personnel from S.H.I.E.L.D. secretly surrounded the area, recovered the corpses of the manor after the war, confirmed their identities one by one, and cleaned and disinfected them along the way. The newly developed helicopter buzzed and landed on the courtyard, and the spiral blades blew up countless dust and gravel. Before it stopped, Fury, who was wearing a black windbreaker and a fierce logo with a one-eyed bald head, jumped out of the cabin. Nana in the cool black uniform Tasha followed closely behind. Hello, Director. Take care of the boss. The armed men with guns guarding the gate of the manor, as well as the doctors and nurses doing the autopsy, saw the two people coming, and hurriedly put down their work and greeted them in awe. There was only a man in a suit dressed as a secretary standing on the steps of the manor, holding the threshold with one hand, with a dazed expression. Secretary Martin, how is the inspection going? Clearing his throat, Fury stepped forward and asked in a deep voice. Ah, Director, you're here. The secretary was startled by the voice, turned to see Fury, his already pale face turned even paler, and said falteringly, well, there are, people who have been checked so far. A dead body, the death is tragic, and some of the identities are Soviet agents and Risen ninjas. Oh? You missed it? Fury stared at him and said meaningfully. What did you say? the secretary asked, wiping the cold sweat off his forehead. Fury continued, there should be members of the Hydra organization here. Didn't you already know this? Don't be joking, Chief. I knew it a long time ago. The secretary squeezed out an ugly smile, and Fury patted him on the shoulder and said, okay. Stop pretending, Executive Sammy, and some shield. I have just eliminated the personnel inside the bureau, and only you are left, Hydra spy. Before the words were finished, the secretary turned pale, and sat down on the steps of the manor with his feet limp. Natasha was very self-conscious. Without Fury's prompting, she walked over and locked the other party with spare handcuffs, and the armed personnel next to her helped escort her to the helicopter. He should go today, pausing in front of the door, Fury said with inexplicable emotion. It's almost time, Natasha on the side nodded, standing side by side with Fury on the steps, quietly looking at the manor in front of her. People in this world may not realize one thing. Fury shook his head inexplicably, and said with a sad tone, today, February 1945, number 11. A god who only belongs to humans has left. At this time, in the hinterland of the Atlantic Ocean, the holographic projection was disguised as a dragon turtle island with floating ice. On the top roof of the fortress building, Kyle stood in the center alone, next to Lucy, Yutong, Logan, and Howard. For Kyle, there don't need to be too many people to see him off. The 4 people in front of him are enough. Kyle, boss, boss, boss. The names of the 4 people are different, but their faces are the same, heavy and sad, and they clenched their fists to cover up the grief and sentimentality of parting. There is no need to say more about the parting words. You will take care of the house. With a casual smile, Kyle took a deep breath and took a few steps forward. With a slight movement of his mind, Kyle pulled out the cards one by one, and turned them into entities. First came the Venom, and he immediately transformed into an all-in-one Black Knight suit in symbiosis with it, and then put on the hanging ring on the 2 fingers of his left hand, put on the vibrating gold arm guard on his right hand, and placed a pair of energy pistols on both sides of his calf. Finally, a one-handed sodium carbon steel sword with a leather sheath was carried behind his back. Now, I'm really fully armed. With a light breath, under the gaze of Lu's eye and the others, Kyle entered the card space with his mind, and pulled out the card that had always been stored at the highest place. The card turned into a real card, and Kyle held it between the fingers of his right hand. The card was crystal clear and glowed with dazzling crystal brilliance. Space stone. In the old age of the current Earth, if you want to cross the boundless starry sky and go to other planets on the other side of the universe, you can only rely on it to control it. Kyle, is that something that can take you away from Earth? Howard stared at the crystal card and asked for the rest of the core members of the Carl family. Kyle nodded his head and explained, since the beginning of the world, the universe was formed in a big bang, and the system wreckage that turned into the universe was condensed into a hard block, and 6 mutants with infinite power appeared in it. That is the infinite gem. And what I have in my hand is exactly one of the original space stones. Only the extraordinary individual life in the universe can control and use it. After finishing speaking, Kyle stared at the crystal card in his hand. He was not sure whether he was now in the ranks of extraordinary individuals, and whether he could withstand the surging power that inspired the rough stone. But he has no choice. He wants to quickly cross the star field. The only way is to try to master the original space stone. Now that the decision has already been made, Kyle no longer hesitates, and immediately turns the card in his hand into a real thing. Under the suspicious eyes of Lu's eye and others, a small blue gemstone appeared on the palm of the right hand wrapped in Kair's Henjin's arm guard, exuding dazzling blue light and mysterious and strange magic power. At this time, one hemisphere away, the hall of a certain residence of Karma Taj is far away. The Ancient One mage sat on the tufted cattail, explaining with a gentle face, while dozens of monks in long robes sat on the clean floor below, with their eyes closed, listening patiently, immersed in the profound meaning of magic. As if sensing something, Master Guyi stood up abruptly. Amidst the monks' astonishment, she gazed solemnly towards the west. At this moment, her gaze seemed to pass through the wall, across the ocean and land, and landed on a blue gemstone. On the island base, the dazzling blue radiance of gemstones almost formed a beam of light, trying to envelope Kyle. If anything happens, don't come close to me. Yutong Logan, watch out for Lu's eye. After saying that, Kyle put his whole heart on the space stone, raised his left hand decisively, and pressed it on the gemstone in his right palm without hesitation. Superior. Space rough stones are sensitive to organic carbon in just an instant. Wisps of space power penetrated into Kyle's left hand, and the Venom body couldn't bear it and pulled away from the left shoulder, completely exposing an arm. With palms together, Kyle is in the state of personally touching the gem with one hand, and clenched his hands tightly to continuously glow the original beam of light. Violent energy poured in from his left palm, and Kyle gritted his teeth, resisting the pain that half of his body was about to tear and collapse. His left arm and the left half of his face are translucent, and the inner blood vessels can be clearly seen. The dark blue energy of the space gem is constantly penetrating and infecting, and the long-suppressed self-healing factor is struggling to resist. Externally, the energy tides and light beams glowing from the original space stone have covered Kyle's whole body, forming a vortex of beams of light, rushing straight up to the sky and the Milky Way star field. Kyle couldn't help growling. The muscles were festering, the skeleton was being ground, the blood was evaporating, the genes were being destroyed, and the body was falling apart, which far surpassed any kind of pain in the past. Even so, he still tightly held on to the space stone, unwilling to let go. Kyle, with tears streaming down her face, Luzai couldn't help rushing towards the beam of energy light, but was soon stopped by Logan and Yutong with heavy faces. On the island, under the reflection of the soaring beam of light bit by bit, a bright image of the starry sky finally took shape and transformed into midair. The next moment, a beam of rainbow bridge light enveloped Kyle's body. His body is like a white mist under the sun, slowly dissipating out of thin air until it no longer exists. The universe chapter is out, and the previous discussion has come to an end. Book friends who have opinions on the universe plot can express their opinions in the book review area. Tomorrow, I will read the book review, reply and add the essence. 159. Leave note. Written request for leave, take a day off. I'm ready to write a chapter on the universe. I reviewed related movies today, such as Thor 1, 2, 3, Guardians of the Galaxy 1.2, and Avengers 3. If you have any comments or suggestions, just put them under this chapter says. Chapter 160. Call out. In the field of vision, it turned into a blurred after image, and in the blink of an eye, Kyle swooped down from the top of the garbage mountain. The explosion speed of 10 times human beings is too frightening. The leader of the scavengers opened their mouths wide and did not hold a gun in their hands. They only spat out 3 words tremblingly, shoot. As soon as the words fell, several laser beams of daytime rubbed against the outline of the figure, and those that missed hit the rubbish mountain and exploded. Immediately, Kyle approached, and sent out his fists with all his strength without holding back. The 2 scavengers standing in the front, under the heavy punch of tons, immediately wailed tragically, unable to let go of the guns in their hands. The body could not stop flying backwards. There were clear fist marks on their chests, and even the muscles and ribs collapsed clearly, rolling and flying 10 meters away like a ball. It looks like a human being, and its vitality seems to be not much higher than that of ordinary humans. Half of its body plunges into another garbage mountain, and the ones that don't move become new garbage. Flipping the palms of both hands, Kyle's face was indifferent, and he accurately caught the 2 black and gold guns of the scavengers who had been dealt with, and quickly aimed the muzzles at the other 2 scavengers with guns. Quickly kill, the 2 scavengers exclaimed, raising their guns to fight back, but the words of attack quickly turned into screams. Their bodies were intertwined and pierced by lasers, forming circular bloody holes in their lower abdomen or chest, and they lost their vitality and fell straight on the ground. I hate being pointed at with a gun the most. Shrugging his shoulders, Kyle turned sideways, looked indifferently at the surviving leader of the scavengers, and slowly approached. The leader of the scavengers was sitting on the floor full of rubbish in a daze. This scene reversed too quickly. In less than 3 seconds, all 4 of his companions were reduced to corpse. Tread. Wearing only big underpants and combat boots, the strangely dressed naked Kyle stopped in front of the scavengers. The leader of the scavengers knelt on the ground and bowed his head, begging for mercy. He kissed his dirty boots and tremblingly said, "Don't kill me. I'm very sorry for this place." "Familiar, very useful to you. What's your use, tell me?" Kyle asked coldly. "Venom is not here. He really needs a local to understand the situation here." "I can," the leader of the scavengers said, and suddenly flicked his left hand hidden under his body. A small technological device was like a hidden weapon, and suddenly attacked Kyle, who was nearby. As if he had been prepared for a long time, Kyle's eyes flickered. His body was still in a state of combat alert. His 5 senses and reflex arcs were extremely sharp. Facing this seemingly inevitable close-up assault distance, His body was so lightly sideways. Cleverly, the one just avoids that small technological device. The technological device hit the discarded steel deck behind him, and immediately absorbed slightly on the surface, as if injecting some kind of liquid into it. How could it be possible to avoid it? Seeing this, the leader of the scavengers was dumbfounded. His pale and ugly face wanted to cry without tears. You are not as good as those ninjas in Risen when you play with hidden weapons. Kyle shook his head. It's a pity that he is a war hero who fought all the way from the cruel battlefield of World War II on the Earth. If this kind of trick wants to deceive him, it is far from qualified. But after this resistance, Kyle also lost his temper. He raised his foot and stepped directly on the head of the leader of the scavengers, ignoring the other party's wailing and begging for mercy, and stepped half of his face into the ground. You can't kill me, you alien, you can't live here today, the leader of the scavengers said through gritted teeth. Half of his mouth buried on the ground was choking on garbage and dust. A few mouthfuls. Boy, I'll bear with you for a while, and I'll sell you to the duelator, and help me count the money, he thought resentfully, thinking that he had a clue, and the other party would not kill him easily. Unfortunately, he guessed Kyle wrong again. I've already given you 2 chances. There is a saying in my hometown that there are only 3 things to do, but in my case, there will never be a 3rd chance. With a cold smile, Kyle stepped on his feet and stepped on them. Inch down. The head of the scavengers was about to be crushed, and his headache was about to split, and he finally started to panic, knowing that he had met a ruthless character. Give me one more, hey. After the crisp cracking sound of something, the giant vortex wormhole above Kyle's head also shrank back to its original size. The rain of garbage stopped, and the noise in this area subsided. Did I come here when I encountered a space wormhole on the way? What about the venom? Why didn't it follow? Looking at the pile of rubbish he came out of, Kyle fell into thought and stepped on the leader of the scavengers. On the cotton-padded cloak of the corpse, he rubbed back and forth to wipe off the sticky blood on the soles of his shoes. Kyle looked down, and 3 unowned item cards that could be drawn were suspended on the body of the leader of the scavengers. High-voltage laser gun, high-tech thermal weapon, which can emit a single laser beam, hitting the target to give penetration and burning damage. Blue item card, neurotoxin remote control machine, a high-tech auxiliary tool, and a small god-level toxin-emitting probe as a control device, which can remotely control the probe to inject toxins and paralyze the target. Blue item card, scavenger identification card, the identification number of the scavenger profession, which is number 266. White item card. Even scavengers and beggars are recognized occupations on this planet? Is this serious? The corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and Kyle drew the cards. Looking around the environment carefully for the first time, he understood the origin of this occupation. He looked at it with a glance, and within the scope of his eyes, there were actually endless alien garbage. This scenery had an inexplicable sense of horror and familiarity. The most urgent thing is to find a local to understand the situation here. Kyle thought for a while, then suddenly looked at a pile of garbage 20 meters away on the left, raised his laser gun, and said calmly, "Come out, I found you." That, under the aim of the muzzle of the gun, a 4-faced little beast like a squirrel and a white bear stepped out timidly with small human steps, bowed to Mr. Kyle, and said softly, "Dear outer space powerhouse, I pay my respects to you. I was just passing by here, not with those scavengers just now." "What kind of species are you?" Kyle put down his gun and looked at the talking creature with interest. It is as big as a domestic cat on the earth, with white and fluffy hair all over its body, which is slightly conspicuous in the dirty garbage site. When standing, it looks like a bear that has shrunk several times, but it has the tail and ears of a squirrel. "My name is Babo. I'm a modified creature from a certain planet, a semi-finished low-level creature subjected to illegal genetic and simulation experiments," the little beast said humbly with a very low posture. "Babo," Kyle nodded and said calmly, "I need to know the details of this place. I'd love to answer that for you." Babo stepped forward cautiously, spread his hands, and said seriously, "This is Sakastar, located on the edge of the universe between known and unknown worlds, where all the lost and unloved things are collected." Chapter 161 Massacre. Sakastar? Hearing Babo's explanation, Kyle was stunned for a moment, then looked at the surrounding mountains and plains of rubbish again. His eyes finally showed some understanding. No wonder it looks so familiar. Isn't this the lost land known as the Cosmic Junkyard, where the Hulk and Thor have fallen successively? Bebo's paw pointed to the small colorful wormholes scattered in the sky above his head, and added information. The space of this planet is extremely unstable, and there are countless wormholes surrounding the sky. These unstable wormholes are connected to all parts of the universe from time to time, and is also regarded by some civilized planets as a perfect garbage dump. You mean? When I crossed the interstellar, I passed through the open wormhole and came in as garbage. Twitching the corner of his mouth, Kyle seemed to think of something, and opened his left hand to look. There was an obvious burn mark left by the original space stone on the palm, but the infinity gem was nowhere to be seen. The thoughts quickly sank into the card space, and after confirming that there was no result, Kyle's heart sank slightly. Not only the venom and equipment items, but also the space rough stones that are crucial for traveling through the starry sky? Seeing that Kyle's expression was not right, Bibo comforted him softly and said, "Sir, don't be sad. All lost lives, from high-level gods to low-level creatures, as long as they encounter the wormhole vortex, it is difficult to escape the fate of being exiled here. Is this a consolation for you?" Kyle glanced at the little beast, shook his head helplessly, looked at the small wormhole that had been restored to its original state and the mountain of garbage he climbed out, and asked doubtfully, "Wait a minute. Another friend followed me into the wormhole vortex. Why is it only me? Show up here, it didn't fall with me. This is normal." Bibo raised his paw, recalling the disastrous scene where the giant wormhole vortex appeared just now, and patted his chest with lingering fear. That was the red teleportation vortex known as the Devil's Cave just now. Bibo paused, and continued, "It is formed by the collapse of neutron stars in the universe. Sometimes it is not a pure space wormhole, and often there is a time wormhole superimposed below it. Even if it falls into the vortex eye at the same time, the place where it comes out is fixed here. It is completely uncertain who came here earlier and who was slower." Wormhole in time and space. Kyle had a slight headache and asked calmly, "The time difference? How long might it be?" Bibo stretched out two little fingers. "A week or two." Kyle was about to let out a sigh of relief when he quickly added, "Maybe a year or two." "Kyle, is the difference between 1 or 2 years and 1 or 2 weeks too big? If it took so long for the venom to come here, the grass on his grave would be 3 meters high if he hadn't been cured of his genetic disease by then. It doesn't matter that much, although I haven't come to the ideal place, but as long as this is an easy-to-habit planet and there are alien races, there is a probability that there will be an ability card that can rewrite fate. Now, let's get a firm foothold here and explore and study this planet." Thinking of this, Kyle couldn't help but gradually calm down, and his eyes fell on Bibo, looking him up and down. Under the gaze of slightly sharp eyes, Bibo's hair stood on end. He took a step back, and said tremblingly, "Well, I'm just a low-level modified creature, and the meat quality is actually not delicious. The universe in outer space is so vast that there are all kinds of strange races, not to mention the extra-legal place of Sokka, where hunting for food is common under the primitive competition for survival and resources. I'm not interested in eating you." Kyle shrugged and said, "Bibo, I can negotiate a deal with you." "What deal?" Bibo's ears perked up, and he looked at Kyle suspiciously. "You just came here, and you shouldn't have any Sokka currency on you, and now you..." Bibo glanced at Kyle, who was only wearing a pair of underpants, holding only 2 laser guns in his hands. He hesitated to speak, and did not dare to say "poor guy." Kyle seemed to see through its thoughts, raised his chin, gestured to the garbage mountain next to him and said, "I use this garbage mountain to make a deal with you." "What did you say?" Bibo hopped his feet and said angrily, "I thought you wanted to use the spoils from killing those 5 scavengers just now as a deal. From just now to now, haven't you always been envious of that garbage mountain? That new garbage mountain has not been searched by anyone, and its gold content is not low." Kyle looked at Bibo calmly, and said meaningfully, "Just now you showed up because you wanted to come back here to collect garbage after I left. You should be a scavenger too." This, Bibo scratched his head in embarrassment after being seen through by Kyle, thought for a while, and said through gritted teeth, "A high-voltage laser gun, plus the right to search this new garbage mountain for the first time. I promise to cooperate with you. Seal the deal." "No problem." Kyle was very hearty, throwing a laser gun in his hand. Bibo easily caught a laser gun that was bigger than him, hung it obliquely on his back, pondered and said, "You are a very good person, and you didn't force me. Tell me, what do I need to pay?" Kyle smiled and said seriously, "I need a tour guide who can guide me to understand and officially settle on this planet. At an unknown time, a garbage dump somewhere on Sokka." As the small wormholes in the sky scattered small garbage, The spherical objects composed of metal arm guards, strange rings, energy pistols, etc. fell down and splashed some waves on the garbage river. Huh? The lone humanoid scavengers not far away raised their eyes, just in time to see this scene, couldn't help rushing into the river, ignoring the dirty ones and frantically fishing in the water. But after a while, the humanoid scavenger excitedly picked up the ball-shaped patchwork and wiped it clean with the cloak and clothes on his body. With a slight pull, the humanoid scavenger pulled the vibrating gold arm guard away from the spherical object, and pulled out a few sticky black threads wrapped around the arm guard, which were so tough that they could not be broken. There seems to be something inside, the humanoid scavengers muttered in confusion, holding the spherical object with both hands, and their eyes moved closer to the gap, trying to peek into the inner things. Call out. The black liquid spewed out of the spherical object like an octopus, and was attached to the face of the human-shaped waste scavenger. The human-shaped waste scavenger did not even utter a wail, but fell straight in the river channel, struggling with limbs and slapping with garbage and river water. Gilulu, the body of the humanoid scavenger sank to the bottom of the river, some bubbles appeared, and then he stood up suddenly. His whole body was covered with a layer of black cuticle, and his muscles were bursting. He looked taller and stronger several times, and his facial features were hideous and terrifying like monsters. Finally got rid of that man, the humanoid monster grinned ferociously and made a hoarse and violent voice. I don't want to be Venom anymore, I'm Slaughter. Chapter 162 Grandmaster. Sokka Star, the main city of Sokka. The sky full of dark clouds and small black holes becomes even darker and empty like an abyss after nightfall. There is not even a trace of the morning light that represents hope, and even the light that shines slightly upward from the surface is swallowed up in the black hole. All kinds of strange buildings with patchwork and high-tech features are crowded in the main urban area. At this time, the neon lights are shining everywhere, which is extremely dazzling. On the brightly lit main street, aliens with blue skin, stone men made of brown stones, fish-headed men with scales, big-eyed monsters with big eyes and small heads, etc. Creatures from different planets break the boundaries of races. Passionate parade carnival, as if venting the unhappiness of the day. Sokka is a lifeless planet, so there are no natives. The people here are basically race creatures from all over the universe. Lost and fallen here, only those who survived become locals, the short Babo explained, holding a heavy sack 5 times bigger than himself with his paws, putting it on his thin shoulders, and dragging forward with some difficulty. The tall Kyle next to him nodded. He had changed into a hooded wallet and jeans, and was carrying a military backpack stuffed with 4 laser guns. Ordinary spaceships cannot break out of the wormhole vortex of Sokka, so creatures entering here are like entering a planetary cage, and cannot escape for a lifetime. In addition, the food resources here are poor and expensive, and the pressure of competition for survival is huge. I don't know which day I was killed by other scavengers in the wild, so I will enjoy the carnival and entertainment at night, Babo sighed, and led Kyle to bypass the bustling main street, take a remote path from the edge of the desolate and remote wilderness, and continue to go deeper into the city. Frowning slightly, Kyle's footsteps suddenly stopped, looking at the corner of the building behind him, as if noticing his strangeness. Babo put down the sack, turned around and asked, Mr. Kyle, what's wrong? Someone is following us, Kyle said precisely. His 5 senses are all at an extraordinary level above human beings, a bit sharper than some beasts, and the enemy's tracking is too rough and random, it's hard not to notice it. Are you sure? Bibo's bare face changed slightly, and he said in a low voice, put on the identity badge of the scavengers. Kyle nodded, reached into his pocket, and pinned the ID card of the leader of the scavengers he killed earlier to his left chest. He had just put on his ID card, and the other party seemed to know that he had exposed his whereabouts, so he chuckled lightly, and walked out of the alley voluntarily. Kyle followed a shadow, his pupils constricted. It was an alien with big eyes. His eyes were the size of an adult's fist, occupying 1/3 of his blue face. When he stared at the 2 of them, his eyes rolled. Keep turning. Babo, you gained a lot today, the big-eyed monster said with a smile. It's you again, what are you following me for? Bibo's face was full of disgust, his paws touched the laser gun on his back, and he said coldly, if this is not the city, I would have blown your eyes out. You can't be so lucky every day. Remember, don't be discovered by me in the wild, or I will definitely taste your meat, the big-eyed monster said. Saliva flowed out of his mouth, and his big tongue quickly sucked it back, The blue eyeballs turned to look at Kyle, and said maliciously, "Is he a newcomer? What planet is he from? It's none of your business." "Kyle, let's go." Bibo snorted coldly, turned around and waved his hands, grabbed the sack with his claws and walked away. Kyle glanced at the big-eyed monster, remembered its ugly appearance, and then followed Bibo's pace. Behind him, there was still the rampant cry of the big-eyed monster, "Hey, don't let me see you in the wild, or I will make you a good meal. Leave it alone. No one dares to do anything in the main city of Sokka." Bibo ignored the warning behind him and said firmly while walking, "Is it because of this identity card? There are also rules and regulations here," Kyle asked, pointing to the identity card on his left chest. "Scavenger identity card. This is one of the guarantees for the survival of the locals on this planet. The most important thing is, look." Bibo suddenly raised his head, and it happened that a disk spaceship passed by at an altitude of 50 meters. A light constantly scans the street below. Kyle watched the silver disk spaceship go away quickly. This hovering spaceship is much more advanced than the fighter planes of the World War II era on Earth, and even Wakanda has not yet reached this level of technology. Bibo reminded him, "This is the supervision and guard of the main city of Sokka. In the garbage dump in the wild, you can do whatever you want, and killing people and stealing goods is commonplace. But in the main city, it is an absolute safe zone, and no fighting of any kind is allowed and snatching, otherwise the consequences will be worse than death." Kyle nodded in understanding, his eyes flickering brightly. This sentence has another meaning, that is, as long as it is not discovered by the supervision guards. Since as a guide, there is one more important thing I want to remind you. This is also a rule that all creatures who come to Sokka must understand clearly. Bibo emphasized his tone, dragged the heavy sack, and quickened his pace, leading Kyle through the edge of the main city. After turning a street corner, he cast his eyes solemnly forward. Kyle also stopped, looked up, and saw a strange building standing like a dense forest, and at the end of his vision, in the center of the main city, a building was about 10 times taller than any other building. The building stands out from the crowd. On the front of the central building, holographic projection technology is used to maintain a projection of a middle-aged man hundreds of meters high. He is dressed in gorgeous and noble clothes, looking down at the main city and even the entire planet. Dozens of disk spaceships, with a portrait in the central building as the center, continuously cast lights that hover and scatter. He is the original, the first life lost here. It is only known to have survived for millions of years, and it is the only master who develops and builds Sokka. The name is Goshianzan, and the locals here generally respect it. He is the Grand Master. Bibo lowered his head, and said with unprecedented dignity, "On this planet, everything belongs to him, the ruler who guards and supervises, and the most unprovoked existence, there is none." Goshianzan, Grand Master, Kyle pondered, his blue eyes revealing a ray of deep meaning, feeling that his ultimate goal of coming here has been achieved. Bibo didn't know what Kyle was thinking, and warned again, "If you want to live here, then don't try to contact him in vain. As the elder creature of the universe, Grandmaster is moody and difficult to get along with." "Don't worry, I'm not that stupid," Kyle replied with a calm face and a smile. Before he was sure enough, he certainly wouldn't contact the Grandmaster, but when you are sure, or the body can't support it, then it's another story. As the elder of the universe, Goshianzan may have a suitable ability card that can be drawn. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Item Replacement. Bibo dragged the sack and led Kyle all the way to the center of the main city of Sokka. All kinds of aliens on the street glanced at the two, as if they were not used to seeing each other, and soon indulged in their own carnival night. After approaching the inner city area of the central building, the strange buildings became more and more prosperous, and the number of Grandmaster guarding spaceships became more and more dense. They strafed lights back and forth in the sky almost continuously, giving people an inexplicable sense of security and deterrence. "Bibo, is your home in the inner city? It seems that you are doing well on this planet." Kyle stared around and said in surprise. "That's not true." When Bibo heard this, his face was a little embarrassed, and he sighed and said, "You don't know how deceitful the housing prices in the inner city are. The cheapest single room starts at 1,000,000 Sokka coins. The ownership period is only 20 years. Basically, A week's rent for a standard room in a hotel costs about, Saka coins. Saka coins. Kyle was taken aback for a moment, and Bibo seemed to understand his confusion, and explained, the standard high-voltage laser guns in your backpack can be exchanged for, Saka coins. When Kyle heard the price ratio, he calculated it a little bit, and his heart trembled slightly. A high-tech laser gun can only be exchanged for, Saka coins, which is only enough to pay a week's rent for a standard hotel room in the inner city. This is indeed too pitiful. The ones who can gain a foothold in the inner city should be elite aliens from other planets in the universe, Kyle thought to himself. The reason why high-voltage laser guns are not expensive is that they need to consume energy to recharge after use. Energy and food are considered luxuries on this planet. When Bibo talked about this, he said with emotion, my dream now is to save money by picking up rubbish so that I can buy a single room in the inner city of Sakaxing and become a safe inner city resident, but this is really too difficult. Bibo's dream is also the pursuit of most creatures who are lost on this planet. Kyle shook his head secretly. He didn't plan to live on Saka for a long time, but wanted to gain a foothold on this planet as soon as possible, and check whether there were any high-dimensional race life. After all, his body only has about 6 months of life left, and there is no way to delay it any longer. Okay, it's finally here. Gasping for breath, Bibo stopped at the door of a disc-shaped building on the main road. Kyle looked up, and the building in front of him seemed to be transformed from a small part of a medium-sized battleship. It looked luxurious and very technological. There were stone men holding laser guns on both sides of the door as security guards. This is the banking industry under the name of the Master. In it, you can exchange all valuable items into Saka Star currency, Bibo said, carrying the sack that almost crushed it and walked in again, showing the scavenger after the ID card was passed. The security guards got out of the way. Kyle followed Bibo into it. The hall on the first floor is spacious, and there are multiple reception rooms with partitions. Mr. Kyle, you need money every day on Saka. I suggest you exchange laser guns for some Saka currency, Bibo gave a suggestion, and under the strange eyes of many aliens. He carried the sack walked to a hospitality booth. Indeed, money is needed everywhere, Kyle shrugged, thought for a while, and walked into another single room. Scavenger number 266. Welcome to the Saka Exchange. I am the receptionist Enli, and I am happy to serve you. The receptionist named Enli is a female alien who looks like a human, but the naked skin in the uniform it's pink, and said hello to Kyle who was approaching through a layer of energy protection net in the reception window. I want to change the Saka currency, Kyle said bluntly, and reached out and took out 2 laser guns from his backpack. Enli's face changed slightly. After Kyle simply put the guns on the window, he relaxed. You are a new scavenger. This kind of aggressive thermal weapon usually needs to be identified at a specific window, but I happen to be free tonight, so I will make an exception to exchange it for you. Enli pressed the button, and 2 lasers after the firearm fell into the window. She picked up the instrument for professional detection and identification, and the analysis was completed quickly. High-voltage laser rifle, 80.00% intact, with 1 bar left in the energy bar, which can be exchanged for, another one of the same model, 80.00% 5 integrity, with 2 bars left in the energy gauge, which can be exchanged for, only concluded. The 2 items can be exchanged for, Saka Star currency together. Will it be traded? Deal. Kyle nodded with certainty, feeling a little headache. 22,000 is not enough to live in a hotel in the inner city of this planet for a month. Does he also have to pick up garbage or kill people to get by like Bibo? Cash, or get a card? If you haven't had a card yet, you can get a new trading card for, Enli put away the 2 laser guns, and said without forgetting to sell them. Then, let's do it. Kyle frowned deeply. The cost of Star Saka is so expensive, it is not an option to go on like this. I'll handle it for you right away. Enli stood up, but was quickly stopped by Kyle with a wave of his hand. Wait a minute, as if thinking of something, Kyle reached into the military backpack and pretended to grope, and actually extracted it in the card space, transforming an item into a physical object and taking it out. The round steel ring buckle fixes the inner light blue energy block, and the white and blue light that glows fills the entire reception room. This is, Enli opened her eyes wide in surprise, reflecting the light from the energy block. Kyle handed over the energy object. This is a product of my home planet, A kind of energy substance called Krypton gold. Let me check how much it is worth in Saka star currency. Anli carefully held the Krypton gold, tested it with equipment and instruments, frowned slightly, and asked, "Sorry, the information about this energy item is not included in the database. Please wait a moment." After finishing speaking, Anli in the window took Krypton gold and hurried into the backstage. Kyle waited for about 5 minutes before Henry came back, followed by an alien with a big swollen head and glasses. Mr. Client, hello. This is our chief appraiser and the manager of the Saka exchange. Anli even changed her address and tone from the previous perfunctory, showing a lot of respect. Holding Krypton gold in both hands, the brain alien looked at Kyle and said excitedly, "Sir, where's your hometown?" "Planets with low civilizations are not worth mentioning," Kyle said calmly, unwilling to disclose information about the Earth. "You're joking. This is a new type of artificially synthesized element, and the element is used as a highly pure energy crystal. Such a small piece can supply the operation of an interstellar warship. It simply surpasses the definition of energy. A work of art." The alien manager was obsessed with rubbing Krypton gold, and said excitedly, "It is not a high-level civilization with top-notch technology, and coupled with a huge opportunity, it cannot be produced at all. I don't know the relevant knowledge, I just want to ask, what is its value?" Kyle asked coldly. The alien manager thought for a moment, then stretched out a finger. "If you are willing to sell, I can ask for 1,000 million. Chapter 164. The hunt begins. Kyle left the single room of the replacement reception with a calm face. In his trouser pocket, there was already a trading card with, million Saka currency savings, the business card of the manager of the replacement station, and the secret stuffed by the receptionist in Lee note. It just so happened that Babo and the receptionist had finished calculating the whole sack of garbage with the receptionist, and walked out of the reception window with a lot of money in their pockets, and secretly waved their paws at Kyle. Mr. Kyle, here." Kyle walked over, Babo pulled his trousers with his claws, and urged in a low voice, "Go, get out of here quickly." "Huh?" Kyle was surprised, his eyes slightly looked around, and he suddenly understood. In the waiting area of the lobby of the exchange, there were several aliens on the seats who were watching them faintly, including the big-eyed monster who had followed the two of them in the outer city before. Leaving the replacement building with Babo, Kyle asked him in surprise, "Didn't you say that snatching is not allowed in the urban area? It is not allowed to rob. But the big-eyed monster just now belongs to a criminal team. Some of their alien members have racial talents and are very difficult to mess with. Once the target is locked, they will be in the outer city where the guards are weak. Make a surprise attack or steal." Babo was extremely cautious, his eyes glowed green at night, and he entered a state of alert. It didn't replace and sell the high-voltage laser gun, and it still carried it on its thin body as a weapon for protection and counterattack. "It's simple, as long as we stay in the inner city and don't go out," Kyle suggested. "What did you say? How expensive is the hotel accommodation in the inner city?" "But I told you a long time ago. There's a curfew after 12 o'clock at night." Babo shrank his neck, clutched his bulging pocket, weakly said, "Don't think about my money. How much did you sell that pile of garbage?" Kyle asked curiously. Satisfied, Babo lowered his voice and said, "There are a lot of good things in exchange for more than 7 Saka currency. The scavengers risked their lives to go out into the wild, and the average income per person was less than 7 Saka star currency per day. More than, yuan is already equivalent to pie in the sky." Kyle fell silent. He had 1,000 million coins on him, and before leaving the Earth, he took all the 3 formed Krypton gold pieces that Howard hurriedly made with him 3,000. Seeing the high-end hotel near the central building on the side of the road, Kyle didn't think too much about it. With his left hand, he picked up the white wave beside him and walked towards it. "Mr. Kyle, what do you want to do?" "Don't go there," Babo wailed in despair, struggling in Kyle's hands, watching him walk into the hotel gate. "Hello gentlemen, do you want to open a room?" At the front desk of the hotel, the long-necked alien waiter startled, looked at Kyle, and Babo who was almost dizzy with his eyes rolled up. "Open a suite with 2 rooms, Kyle said calmly. Hearing his words, Babo shivered, moaned in pain and said, "Don't treat me as a pet, just open a private room." The waiter nodded respectfully and said, "We charge on a weekly basis. Double rooms are priced at, and, single rooms are priced at, and, The price is fair." Babo's heart trembled. This price was completely cutting off his heart. Kyle was very calm, nodded and said, "That's 100,000, it's over, it's over." Bibo was desperate, and hugged his pocket tightly. Kyle smiled secretly, and took out the transaction card in his pocket to swipe the card to pay. When the beep sound of successful payment came from his ear, Bibo was completely stunned. After receiving the room card, Kyle took the elevator upstairs with a stiff Bibo. Outside the entrance of the hotel, the big-eyed monster also looked confused, and could only watch the two of them check into the hotel in the inner city. He originally made a plan to gather a few good members and try to attack in a familiar area in the outer city. Unexpectedly, the other party stayed in the inner city directly. Damn it, they earned so much in the wild today, they moved into a house in the inner city, that should be my money. The big-eyed monster gritted his teeth, and said angrily to himself unwillingly. The inner city is close to the master's residence, and with the dense guards and spaceships all over the sky, those who dare to fight in the inner city have been sent to the duel field for a life and death competition. Sighing helplessly, the big-eyed monster could only leave from the street in front of the hotel at 1 o'clock in the evening. There will be a curfew in the whole city. It didn't notice that at the window on the 5th floor of the hotel, a pair of sharp and slightly cold eyes watched it go away. On the 5th floor of the hotel, in the main hall of the two-room suite. Mr. Kyle. I really didn't expect that you are so rich. Bibo was still in a dream state, sitting on the comfortable blanket on the floor, looking at Kyle standing by the window with shining eyes. I'll talk about it tomorrow if I have something to say. Tomorrow you'll be a tour guide and take me to learn more about Sokka, Kyle said coldly, then returned to his master room and closed the door. By the way, where did this guy come from? He is powerful and generous, but a bit cold. Bibo propped his chin and commented. In the spacious room, Kyle threw the backpack beside the bed, quickly took off the hood, wallet and jeans on his body, waved his left hand, and pulled out an item card to transform it into a real thing. In the blink of an eye, a one-piece black tight-fitting uniform, the same type of battle suit made by Captain America during World War II, was quietly spread on the bed. Old buddy, long time no see, Kyle sighed slightly. Since the Venom was available, this set of battle suits made by Howard has become a card industry in the card space. I didn't expect it to be useful one day. He picked up the combat uniform and began to put it on. His neck was down, and he was soon wrapped by the tight uniform. His perfect physique showed an assembly line of muscle contours. No hood. Kyle rubbed his smooth chin, and as if he remembered something, he continued to draw cards in his mind, and a beast-shaped black helmet appeared in his hand. This is a parting ceremony of apprenticeship given by Black Panther King T'Chaka before parting, a Black Panther helmet made of pure vibrating gold. As one of Wakanda's royal inheritance, T'Chaka's donation of the vital helmet parts is a frenzied exploration on the verge of violating the ancestors, representing a deep art. Kyle originally used it as a collectible, but now it just happens to be combined with the old combat suit to form a complete set of physical combat uniforms. Not to mention, the tone is all dark black. Wearing a Black Panther helmet and black combat uniform, it seems to be replaced with a barbaric style. Kyle tidied up in front of the mirror in the room, then opened the window of the room, turned it out with his palms propped up, and jumped out lightly. Sneak start. Climb start. Thinking silently in his heart, Kyle stood upside down like a spider on the outer wall of the high-rise hotel, ran up quickly, stopped at the top railing, turned and stood upright, and looked down at the huge and dazzling main city street of Sokka Star. Like a lone wolf, looking for prey in the dark. Chapter 165 Disturbance. In the main city of Sokka, the strange and advanced buildings are like trees in a forest. Small patrol spaceships pass by the low sky from time to time, and the shadows are blurred under the lights. Whoosh, a light-colored, nearly translucent figure, like a bloodthirsty beast hidden in the darkness, uses the roofs of the buildings in the main city as pedals, flexibly and lightly bounces and leaps. The soles of the feet climb and absorb the wall, ignoring the building shelters to go out quickly swept in the direction of the city. There are talking, laughing and carnival aliens below, as well as the supervisory guards on the patrol spaceship above, who didn't notice this scene at all. Some of them were within 10 meters away, but they just felt a breeze and shadows flashing by, as if they were tired during the day and fell asleep at night. The illusion caused by sleepiness. Buzz. At the junction of the inner city, on the roof of a 3-story building, a 5-meter-high lamppost was shaken by some kind of impact, and it stretched downwards to reflect a black shadow in the shape of a human. Standing on the dome of the lamppost with the soles of his feet, Kyle's back was straight, facing the evening wind aloofly. A pair of sharp eagle-like eyes were cold, looking through the Black Panther vibrating gold mask, looking for the trace of the target. I found it. His eyes stopped, and Kyle stepped on the lamppost slightly. The light bulb under it couldn't bear the pressure and burst, and as the lights on the roof of the building dimmed, a black shadow swooped down straight ahead. In the outer city of Sokka, there is a dead end only 2 meters wide between buildings. It is rare that there is no light shining here, and it is pitch black. 3 aliens with different shapes and looks, wearing black cloaks, buried in the shadow of the alley at night, leaning against the wall as if waiting for someone. "I'm back." The big-eyed monster walked into the alley with his hands in his pockets and said aloud. One of the aliens, tall and thin, with a bamboo pole shape, walked quickly to the entrance of the alley, glanced outside, and quickly shook his head at the few people behind him. "Yigu, where are the 2 prey you mentioned? They ran away," another big-eyed monster asked with wide eyes, slightly dissatisfied. "You can't blame me for this. Who knew they would actually stay in a hotel in the inner city?" The big-eyed monster named Yigu was also very depressed, and his eyes kept rolling around. "It's hard to focus on the best target tonight, a low-level white bear modified by genetic experiments, a human creature that seems to have no combat power, and has enough money to stay in a hotel. In this case, let's leave early tonight," the humanoid woman standing silently in the innermost alley said calmly, as if she didn't want to waste time. "Yigu, you should notify us in advance, and stop them in the outer city before they place their belongings," the big-eyed monster who seemed to be the leader scolded, looked at the woman covered in black cloak with respect and fear, and said gently, "Yiji, you can go back first. You have worked so hard tonight to come here for nothing." Yiji nodded slightly, tiptoed, and walked forward with a catwalk. 2 big-eyed monsters, one big and one small, and the tall and thin alien leaned against the wall of the alley, giving way to enough body space. About to walk out of the alley, Yiji frowned slightly, felt her hair stand on end, and even felt an inexplicable sense of oppressive fear in her heart. She didn't care about maintaining elegance, and followed her instincts to roll quickly on the spot. She didn't forget to remind her and exclaimed, "Careful." As soon as the words fell, a tall and strong human black figure descended from the sky, and his feet stepped heavily on Yiji's original ground. Without buffer power, and under the undisguised defensive intention, even the hard ground was slightly cracked. The faces of the few people around the deterrent changed drastically. "Who is it?" the leader of the big-eyed monster asked quickly, hoping to delay enough reaction time. Kyle didn't mean to talk to them, and decisively stretched out his fists like lightning, and the fists were whistling and windy, and a ton of heavy punches fell on the leader of the big-eyed monster and the tall and thin alien who were about to draw their weapons body. The 2 screamed, and without any suspense, the bullet flew into the wall behind them, and slightly collapsed into the wall. The dull and loud sound clearly spread out. "It's so powerful. If I didn't dodge it, I would have been seriously injured just now." Yiji continued to roll and opened a body distance, stood up and looked at the 2 companions who were howling again and again, secretly horrified. "Crazy, dare to act so recklessly in the city, don't know if it will provoke the monitoring guards. Physical defense resistance is not bad." Withdrawing his fist, Kyle glanced at the 2 aliens coldly. Being able to survive with 1 punch from oneself is also a test of whether it is a race creature that surpasses human physique and vitality. But that's all. From the moment he took the shot, he decided to make a quick decision. Kyle was about to make up for the attack, first to deal with the 2 alien lives that had been severely damaged, when he suddenly raised his head consciously. A burst of light blue energy exploded at close range, and the head-on shock rippled like water waves, covering the alley's small space. Seeing that there was nowhere to hide, Kyle took the initiative to send his forehead forward, and hit the energy wave with his head. At the moment of contact, a sizzling blue arc erupted in the middle of the alley. Electric shock? Strands of electric arcs entangled his body downwards, and Kyle felt his whole body go numb. His body temporarily lost its functions, and he fell straight to the ground. "You bastard, who the hell are you?" Igu held the electric pulse gun in both hands, and stared fiercely at Kyle on the ground, wishing he could swallow him alive. Kyle didn't answer, and remained motionless, as if he had been stunned by electricity. "Kill him quickly and get out of here. If you don't leave, the guards will come over," Yiji calmly urged. If it wasn't because of her friendship with the small team, she would have left here alone. Fighting in the main city of Sokka and being discovered by the guards is no joke. "Yes, that's right," Igu nodded in a panic. The electric pulse gun aimed at Kyle, who was lying on the ground, and the blue light slowly lit up like charging, and the energy gathered at the muzzle the size of a baby's fist. Just before the electric pulse gun was about to fire, under the vibrating gold mask of the panther, Kyle suddenly opened his closed eyes, stood up with extraordinary reaction speed, kicked up quickly, and hit Egu's hand on the front end of the firearm. The barrel of the gun was kicked upwards, and the blue energy beam passed through one of Egu's big eyes. Egu hugged the wound in pain, and fell to the ground moaning and rolling. The energy beam continued to go upwards, rushed out of the alley, and burst out blue radio waves at low altitude, which was extremely conspicuous like fireworks at night. "It's over." Yiji looked at the radio waves in the sky above her head, and her eyes under the cloak showed fear. "I must leave here as soon as possible. If I don't leave, it will be completely over." At the same time, Kyle stepped on Egu's other big eye, and the viscous liquid stained the floor and soles. Chapter 166 Rare Purple Ability Card. As for Egu, the big-eyed alien, when Kyle was in the outer city, he already had the idea of dealing with and killing it. When he first came to Sokka, he wanted to find out the situation and rules here, and didn't want to cause trouble prematurely. But Egu wanted to treat him as food, and repeatedly jumped up and down in front of him to provoke, stare and taunt, and also prepared conspiracy plans. Instead of saving this kind of alien until the future, it is better to kill it as soon as possible, so as not to jump out again and disgust you. Thinking of this, Kyle's face turned slightly cold, and he kicked Egu's stomach hard again. With all his strength, Egu's body was like a deflated ball, crashing to death on the inner wall of the alley. Egu, the leader of the big-eyed monster, hadn't died yet. Seeing this scene, his eyes were tearing up with anger, and he passed out in grief. "Next, it's your turn." Kyle raised his eyes, stepped forward to make a move, and suddenly turned his head to look out of the alley, but it was the female alien who was fleeing outside, and returned to the alley in a little panic. "Damn it, look what you've done," Yiji whispered angrily. Kyle frowned, but soon, he understood why she came back. From the sky above the head, outside the alley, the dazzling daytime lights from all directions fell into the alley, focusing on Kyle and Yiji, who were still standing. Whoa whoa whoa. Small spaceships buzzed and hovered over the alley, densely packed, almost filling the night sky. Outside the alley, dozens of guards with laser guns blocked the exit. The guns and lights were aimed at Kyle and Yiji in the alley. A circle larger than ordinary patrol spaceships, loaded with a variety of high-performance weapons, and a more technologically sense-hovering spaceship, broadcasting to the bottom of the alley. "Violators, you are already surrounded. Please stop making unnecessary resistance, because of violating the fifth rule set by the Grandmaster, fighting privately in the main city of Sokka. I am the guard chief, and I will arrest you here and send you to the field of life and death duel." It seems to have gone too far. Under the pressure of the spaceship's laser gun and the guard's laser gun, Kyle shrugged and stood where he was, while Yiji raised his hands helplessly and slowly approached Kyle's place. "Hey. If you get caught, you will die in the duel field. Why don't we work together?" Yiji said in a low voice. "Are you talking to me?" Kyle was stunned, but Yiji snorted coldly. "Who else is there besides you? In this situation, only the two of us in partnership can have the chance to escape the guard's pursuit." "No, it's just a little accident. I just killed your partner," Kyle said curiously. "Egu and the others are not my partners, and for the sake of life and death, I can give up everything." While Yiji was speaking, the guards outside the alley had arrived at the entrance of the alley with guns, and she couldn't help but become anxious. "Make a decision quickly. If we drag it on, we'll really be finished together." "I don't care," Kyle nodded. Even though he was surrounded by alien forces, he still had means to escape easily, so he was not impatient. The reason why he stayed was the identity of the female alien in front of him. Kyle's eyes fell on Yiji. Nearly 100 ability cards glowed with dazzling brilliance. Among them, the one that attracted his attention enough to make his heart tremble was a dark purple ability card, Night Elf Gene, the racial gene of the half-blood elf. Rare purple ability card, Semi-Sealed State. A hybrid of light elves and dark elves, it has the natural lifespan of thousands of years of ordinary elves, as well as powerful vitality. Inheriting the blood mana of both parents, light and darkness will interfere with each other, and it is difficult to control the use. Current status: the natural ability is half-sealed, unstable, and cannot be extracted. A rare purple physical ability card. His fists were clenched quietly, and Kyle couldn't calm down. This was the first time he saw the existence of a rare purple ability card. If this kind of high-level physique ability card can be drawn, and strengthen the physique that has already reached the bottleneck, there will be a high probability that it can solve the genetic disease problem on the body. Even though the talent ability of the night elf in front of him is not stable and cannot be extracted, it still makes him feel very excited. Ignoring the time jump on the way to the space-time wormhole, this is the first day of arriving at Sokka, and I met a member of a higher race that can be used as a long-term investigation. In other words, the light elves should be in the upper god realm where Asgard is located. Why did they have an affair with the lower dark elves? Kyle secretly complained, looking at Yi wrapped in a cloak. He made a decision in his heart: as long as you ensure your own safety, you can help her escape from here. Yi didn't know that Kyle had thought so much. Hearing his willingness to cooperate, she took a deep breath and said, "Then it's decided. I will cast a spell to attract the attention of the guards as a signal. You take the opportunity to break through, and then, no need." Kyle interrupted her words, looked at the guards with guns pouring in, and said aloud, "There will be a big commotion later. Take the opportunity to leave by yourself." After he finished speaking, under Yi's shocked gaze, he suddenly accelerated and forced a breakthrough. In half a second, Kyle rushed out of the narrow alley, stepped on a guard's face, and leaped high. "Stop him!" Kyle's crazy behavior undoubtedly angered the chief guard on the spaceship, and he gave an order from the communicator. Dozens of armed guards on the street aimed at Kyle's Icky and pulled the trigger. Dozens of laser beams were fired towards Kyle, who was about to land. The corners of Kyle's mouth raised, his feet bent slightly to accumulate energy, and then he stomped heavily on the air under his feet. Sprint in the air. The energy tide erupted under Kyle's feet. Under the sudden acceleration, his body disappeared out of thin air, leaving behind a series of white waves and afterimages. After passing a distance of 30 meters, he clung to a building on the wall. When Kyle stood upside down on the outer wall of the building, the laser finally collided and exploded on the spot, shining brightly. "Pursue." Like a provocation, Kyle stretched out a middle finger towards the spaceship in the sky, then sprinted and climbed away from the building area without looking back. What kind of race creature is this? The guards and the spaceship pilot were collectively confused. "What are you still doing? Chase me. Chase everyone." The guards' exasperated words came from the communicator in the spaceship radio. Nearly 10 hovering spaceships accelerated and started immediately, spraying blue flames from the rear, and intensively chasing the distant figure of Kyle. "Who is that guy?" Yi, who was still in the alley, was also stunned, but after seeing the spaceships chasing Kyle, she realized that it was her once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to escape, and hurriedly cast a dark spell. Her body was wrapped in a black mist, and gradually disappeared. Chapter 167 Sokka Black Market. As the night passed, the sky of Sokka Star full of small teleportation wormholes lit up in the morning. In the markets and streets of the main city, different types of alien residents gradually became active, but it seemed that due to some changes last night, none of them slept well, and they kept discussing related topics lively. In the inner city of the main city, in a room on the 5th floor of the Star Air Hotel. Mr. Kyle. It's time for Mr. Kyle to get up. At dawn, Bibo knocked on the door of Kyle's master's room, his claws grinding sharply on the metal door. The intelligently operated door opened slowly. Kyle, who was wearing plain pajamas, was sleepy. His tall body blocked the door of the room. He yawned and asked, "What's the noise so early, Mr. Kyle, did you really fall asleep last night? Didn't you notice anything unusual outside?" Bibo looked at Kyle in disbelief. He had faint dark circles under his eyes, was listless, and even the texture of his white hair had deteriorated many. Last night, when Kyle heard this, strange waves flashed in his eyes, and he opened his eyes and replied, "Nonsense. After I went back to the room and took a shower, I fell asleep quickly, probably because of the time difference across the stars." "Slept soundly? What happened?" "Yeah, I guess you're the only one in the whole city who fell asleep." Bibo spread his hands helplessly and said seriously, "Late last night, I don't know who caused trouble in the main city of Sokka. Flying, talking about catching criminals, it's fine to catch criminals, but I chased from the outer city to the inner city, from the south gate of the main city to the north gate of the main city, and spent half the night." Bibo sighed, looking at his back pitifully, wagging his tail left and right. "It's just keep the bear from sleeping, and my fur will lose its luster." "Has the criminal been caught?" Kyle asked with a little interest. "No. If they are caught, will the supervising guards issue criminal arrest warrants all over the city in the morning?" Bibo said. reaching into the small backpack behind his back, and took out a photo wanted warrant. Kyle took over the wanted warrant and read it. The photo shows the alley with the bloodstains and the corpse of the big-eyed monster last night. Only a few slender night elves could be seen. The number one criminal is the one wearing a beast-shaped mask, and the wanted amount is as high as 100 million. The wanted amount of the woman next to her is only, which is equivalent to an additional amount. Bibo had a complicated expression, staring straight at Kyle, as if he wanted to see something on his face. He was both happy and doubtful and said, "The big-eyed monster who opposed us last night was killed, and 2 other companions were seriously injured. I heard that after the treatment, he was sent to the duel field. Isn't that good?" Kyle smiled inexplicably, returned the arrest warrant to Bibo, and said without any rejection, "I'll change my clothes, and I'll take me around the main city of Sokka later. I am willing to serve you." Bibo bowed his head obediently, and raised his hands, exercising a standard salute like a gentleman. "I don't know where the starry sky came out. It's so fierce," Bibo thought to himself, patted his chest and let out a long breath. Anyone with a bit of intelligence would understand how such a coincidence could happen. After the room was closed, Kyle turned around and looked back. His eyes fell on the combat uniform and the Black Panther helmet hanging on the hanger. Those guard spaceships were too difficult to deal with last night. Equipped with infrared and sonic detection and other locking functions, he led the guards around the city a few times, and finally picked up the stealth skill, and escaped half a mile away with a built-in teleportation, which is completely removed. Without venom, many actions are far less convenient than before. Otherwise, simple camouflage and stealth can easily throw off the pursuit of the guard spaceship. "Venom," Kyle murmured softly. He had lived with venom for a long time and was used to its presence around him. Now he really felt a little uncomfortable after being separated. Putting on the hooded wallet and jeans for traveling, Kyle and Bibo went out together. Bibo acts as a tour guide. After seeing Kyle's strength and financial resources, he seems to have the idea of hugging his thigh, and knows everything about Kyle's problems. After finishing the delicious meals in the inner city, Bibo took Kyle to the market at the junction of the inner city and the outer city. Don't miss it when you pass by. From high-tech products of advanced civilization, down to genetic serum of ancient Protoss, everything, just 998, a star core energy crystal gem to take home, an artifact appraised by the elite scavengers, vomiting blood for a big sale. As long as you buy it, you will earn money. The main road market in the middle of piles of rubbish is very lively. Dozens of large and small private stalls are lined up to the end of the line of sight. The extraterrestrial residents in luxurious clothes and the scavengers in ragged clothes are mixed together, wandering around with great interest. View items. Bibo introduced to Kyle, Sokka Star, as the central garbage dump of the entire universe. The most important thing is resources. It can be said that this is the largest black market for sundries in the entire universe. People come here every day to shop for treasures. Isn't this the same as the replacement house? Kyle asked in surprise. Of course it's different. The exchange is run by a grandmaster, and it's reliable, but it will charge a handling fee, and for some items that are not on the known database, that is, items that cannot be identified, they will generally give a low price. Bibo smiled. Said, "This is the charm of the black market. Here you may find priceless treasures at a low price, and it is even more likely to find a bunch of useless alien garbage." Kyle suddenly realized that this is a bit like the stone gambling and antique market on the Earth. However, although the two are of the same nature, the Kasika black market sells unknown items from all over the universe. It is said that to search for treasure in the black market requires eyesight and knowledge. But in fact, who has the knowledge of the entire universe? Even the elders of the universe dare not say that they can identify most of the items in the black market. Therefore, people who come here, it's all about feeling and luck. When Bibo said this, he kindly reminded Kyle, most of the merchants who set up stalls are scavengers, and they all want to make a fortune. They sell themselves and boast. Just look at it, and it's best not to buy it. Kyle nodded, seeing the strange items from all over the universe. It is also good to open his eyes. Following the crowded and lively flow of people, Kyle and Bibo approached the first street stall. The stall was simply covered with a thick black cloth on the ground, and there were more than a dozen strange commodities, large and small, on it. The owner of the stall was a little old man with bare arms. "Hey, isn't this Bibo?" the old stall owner greeted enthusiastically, holding up a black glowing broken bone. "Brought a guest? Let me introduce you to a new product. The intracranial memory crystal of the ancient race. Look at it for the sake of old acquaintances. Only 1,000. Get out, don't use alien garbage to trick me, Bibo cursed angrily. With a calm face, Kyle walked within 3 meters, staring at the various products on the stalls, subconsciously concentrating. The next moment, something unexpected happened to him. Chapter 168. In Kyle's field of vision, the strange goods on the stalls began to show related item card information. Halo Beast broken bones, the remains of the ribs of the Halo Beast white item card. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the remains of the ribs of Halo Beast, an indigenous life that survived on star 020 of the X galaxy, ate dark plants, and even the ribs began to glow black over time. Current status, items for sale by others, unable to be extracted. This is the product information in the hands of the old stall owner, who claims to be the remains of an ancient race. Not only this one, Kyle looked down, dragon frog slime, broken star ingot, Tauren stool, Hartman crafts. Within a range of 3 meters, the area covered by the mind, the color level and detailed information of the product card are clear at a glance. Kyle was stunned. It turns out that there are more than ownerless things items that are still in the possession of the owner. As long as they are sold as commodities, they can actually see the relevant card information, but they cannot be extracted. Squinting his eyes, Kyle calmed down, pointed to the 2 dark ores on the floor, and asked casually, "What is this?" Hearing the question, the old stall owner quickly put down the Halo Beast bone fragments he was selling, looked at Kyle adoringly, and said excitedly, "This customer has really good eyesight. Even the most potentially valuable commodity here, as you have seen it all." Kyle was slightly startled, but the old stall owner's next sentence made him feel that his worries were a bit unnecessary. "This is the black stone that was first shaped during the Big Bang. It contains mysterious energy and is extremely hard. It cannot be melted in a, degree high temperature furnace." Fart. "Just 2 broken stones from an unknown star field," Bibo complained fiercely, and the old stall owner touched his nose in embarrassment, and said expectantly, "If you want to buy, 2 pieces will count as 5,000 for you." 5,000? This broken stone. Before Bibo finished speaking, Kyle next to him nodded and said firmly, "I bought it." The expression on Bibo's face froze immediately. The old stall owner also hesitated for half a second, and quickly packed the 2 stones, with a smile on his face. "Deal, Mr. Kyle, you don't really want to buy this thing, do you?" Bibo opened his mouth wide and looked at Kyle in disbelief. Kyle nodded, snapped his fingers, and said with certainty, "Give me the money, take your things and leave." Bibo hesitated to speak, and finally sighed helplessly, picked up the packaged goods, and took out cash to pay by himself. "Walk slowly, welcome to come again next time." The old stall owner's words of laughter came from behind, and Bibo quickly followed Kyle with his things, and said depressedly for no reason, "Mr. Kyle, what are you buying 2 broken stones for?" "I like it." Kyle shrugged, almost laughing out of joy. The stall owner, Bibo, and everyone else thought he had lost money. In fact, only he knows how much he has gained for nothing. Broken star ingot, an extremely rare metal mineral rare blue item card. The metal ore formed by the mutation of the planetary core in the unknown area is hard and difficult to destroy. It can be used to forge weapons and tools, and it has the characteristic of sharp star. The sharp star absorbs the energy of dark matter in the universe and sends out a meteor-like glow. The metal raw ore alone has reached the rare blue grade, which is 1 grade higher than the vibrating gold metal. How strong should the equipment made be? It's a pity that these 2 small pieces can't even forge a dagger. Kyle slightly "It's a pity," but soon he burst into laughter. After all, he was bought at the price of cabbage. One cannot be too greedy. The card drawing system can identify all product information. For me, this soccer black market is a shopping paradise. Kyle looked at the alien stalls in front of him, as if he was looking at treasure houses, waiting to be opened by himself. Everyone is blind, only he can pick out gold from the vast sand with his eyes open. Next, Kyle entered a state of frenzy for shopping, stopping at every stall, ignoring the salesmanship of the stall owner and Bibo's persuasion, as if he just followed his own heart and bought what he saw pleasing to the eye. In a short time, after visiting most of the stalls in a row, Bibo's small body was almost crushed by the purchased products. Looking at his wallet that was getting thinner, he followed Kyle with a resentful expression. Kyle's face was expressionless, his footsteps did not stop, and there were signs of continuing to stroll. At this time, The stall owners and wandering residents in the black market also knew that a rich man had arrived, the kind of people who are stupid and rich. They looked at Kyle and Bibo with a strange feeling that could only be felt in words. Mr. Kyle, it's almost the same today. The, cash I'm carrying is almost gone, Bibo cried with a sad face. His hands were full of packed simple packaging bags, and the goods in his backpack were stuffed to the point of bursting. In the eyes of others, these are all useless alien garbage. It is not that people are stupid and have a lot of money to spend tens of thousands of dollars to buy garbage with connotations. Kyle pondered for a while, then let go and said, well, let's go to the last one. That's what you said. Bibo breathed a sigh of relief. Since it was the last one, Kyle glanced around and saw that a stall was deserted, so he quickly stepped forward. As soon as he was within 3 meters, his thoughts moved slightly, and relevant card information appeared in front of him. Almost instantly, Kyle's pupils shrank, and he stared at an object, unable to move his gaze away. At this moment, even with his tenacious and powerful state of mind, he was shaken. Kyle pretended to be calm, squatted down, and cast scorching eyes at close range. The product is very large, similar to a huge axe. The blades on both sides are completely broken off, leaving only the 1-meter-long axe handle carved with ancient patterns and half of the tip of the axe end. This broken axe was made of unpretentious dark gold, stained with congealed golden blood. Child, this product of yours was put on display without even wiping off the blood. You picked it up from the pile of dead people, right? Bibo yelled dissatisfied. The guard stall owner was indeed a skinny pink alien kid. He said timidly, I wiped it off, but the blood couldn't be wiped clean. My sister said it was the blood of the Celestials, gods, Bibo snorted. Everyone knows that the Celestial race is an ancient life in the universe, even older than the elders of the universe. They have many forms, human beings, beasts, a planet, and even the idea of nothingness. Therefore, as long as you have the relationship with the Celestial race, you can greatly improve your compulsion. How do you sell this? Kyle asked calmly. The pink child stretched out a finger, gritted his teeth and said, my sister said, the minimum is 100 million, 1 million. Bibo was stunned, and couldn't help laughing. I finally know why no one came here. 1 million, you want to grab it, okay, I bought it, Kyle said in a deep voice without the slightest hesitation. Not to mention 100 million, even 1,000 million, 3,000 million, he will buy it without hesitation. This broken axe is a real artifact. Chapter 169 The God's Weapon. 100 million Saka coins. This is basically a sky-high price in the black market. In the inner city of Saka, where the pressure of resource competition is huge, you can buy a safe and secure house at any location. And the commodity that was bought and sold was still an unknown broken axe. Fortunately, the place where the children's street stall was located was already vacant, otherwise the news of this transaction would have caused a sensation in the black market. Mr. Kyle, you used 100 million Saka coins to buy this broken axe? Think about it again, you can't spend it like this. Bibo moved closer to Kyle, persuading him in a low voice. It originally thought that Kyle was just interested in buying some novelties on the black market as decorations on a whim, but he didn't expect that at this time he would be willing to pay such a high price for a broken axe. Kyle ignored Bibo, squatted down, put his right palm on the damaged large axe handle, and gently stroked the strange and colorful lines on the surface, and the hard and cold touch was clearly conveyed to his hand. Not only that, but also the original charm that comes from the intersection of fighting, iron and blood. Kyle closed his eyes, ignored the noise of the black market where he was, and immersed himself in feeling it with his heart and mind. He seems to have seen a cruel battle on the ancient battlefield in the cosmic starry sky. Extraordinary beings are fighting, and even the gods in mythology may perish on the spot if they are not careful. It was a game battle among the higher races. For the dominance of this cosmic starry sky, whether it was the scale of troops invested by the alien races or the individual strength of each other's weapons and equipment, it far exceeded any battle on Earth in World War II. Where did you get this axe? Opening his eyes, Kyle asked in a deep voice, his pupils flickering, as if he had thought of something. Half a year ago, I picked it up from the garbage river in the wild, and just brought it back to the inner city. My sister and I also rented a medium-sized fishing spaceship. The alien child finished speaking, as if he was afraid that Kyle would suddenly go back on the deal, quickly asked, do you really want to buy it? Of course. But I don't have that much cash on me. The money is in the trading card, Kyle answered exactly. I will inform my sister now. She will come with a card payment device. Please wait a moment. The alien child was so excited that he hurriedly took out the communicator and sent an urgent message. Seeing that the deal was a foregone conclusion, Bibo drooped his ears and tail, and stopped trying to persuade him. After all, Kyle pays the money, so he can use it however he wants. 100 million, Bibo just felt distressed, and secretly sighed how much trash he had to pick up before he could get it back. After about 5 minutes, Kyle, who was waiting in front of the stall, looked up and saw a small Kun-style spaceship flying out of the inner city in a radiant light, driving towards this side, and finally hovering at a low altitude of 10 meters directly above his head. The child kept waving to the floating Kun-jet spaceship and said with a smile, "My sister is here." The door compartment of the spaceship opened quickly, and a pink-skinned woman in a work uniform came down the elevator ladder nimbly. The alien child was about to go up to talk to him, but the woman grabbed him by the ear and said in a dissatisfied tone, "I don't know if your sister is at work. She even called on the emergency communication and explained it to me. The answer is no. Satisfy me. No dinner tonight. Wow, don't talk. Sister, there is an important customer here." The alien child repeatedly begged for mercy in pain. Huh? The alien woman looked forward, and when she saw Kyle in front of the stall, her face was extremely surprised. She hesitated for a moment, then hurriedly let go of her hand, and said politely, "Mr. Kyle, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to meet you here." "It's quite a coincidence," Kyle nodded. The alien woman in front of him was the receptionist named Enley that he met in the replacement house last night. "That's right, both sister and brother are pink-skinned aliens. There's nothing wrong with that." "Sister, this customer wants to buy that axe," the alien child whispered. "What?" Enley suspected that she had heard it wrong, took a deep breath, grabbed the child's arm nervously, and asked seriously, "What price did you offer? You must have missed a few zeros, right?" Before the child answered, Kyle smiled and urged, "It's been negotiated, 100 million Saka coins. If you bring a charging device, just swipe the card." The diddy sound from the credit card payment device indicates that the transfer of 100 million has been successful. The surprise came too suddenly, and Enley was still in a dream state. She pinched the alien child next to her, as if to verify whether she was dreaming. "The money has been paid? Then I will take the things and leave." Kyle smiled faintly. For him, money and wealth are external objects. As long as he can strengthen his own strength, no matter how much he pays, it is worthwhile. "Of course, please," Enley nodded quickly. Grasping the handle of the axe in his right hand, Kyle wanted to pick up the axe, but with all his strength, the broken axe lying on the floor did not budge. Kyle's face changed slightly. The weight of the broken axe far exceeded his imagination. You know, he has 10 times the power of a human being. With one hand, there are tens of tons of strength, and even a stone with a width of 2 meters can be easily lifted. "Ah, Mr. Kyle, I forgot to tell you. This axe is so heavy that even a stone man known for its brute force can't move it. It needs to be transported by a transport spaceship," Henry said apologetically. "What perverted creature can use such a heavy axe?" Bibo said in surprise. Enley said in a serious tone, "That's why I set such a high price, even if it can't be sold. According to my years of appraisal, the previous owner of this axe may really be some higher life that claims to be a god." Taking a deep breath, Kyle held the handle of the axe again with both hands. "Mr. Kyle, this axe really can't be moved. I'll use the spaceship to transport it back for you." Seeing this, Enley suggested aloud. "I'm trying." Firmly grasping the handle of the axe, Kyle's face was calm, the soles of his feet were firmly on the ground, and the strong muscles of his tall body swelled, and the hooded leather jacket was fully bulged. Kyle pushed his hands hard, and the axe with only the handle trembled slightly, and was slowly lifted up while Enley and the others were stunned. He had only lifted it half a meter high before the axe handle sank again, hitting the floor with a heavy cracking sound. The dust billowed up, and the concrete floor below collapsed into an axe-shaped depression. "This is too scary." Bibo was speechless secretly, his hair stood on end in fright. Is this thing really a weapon? The one who was even more frightened on the field was Enley. She knew very well that the specific weight of the axe was a terrifying value. If the opponent can lift it up a little, it can already be regarded as a humanoid race with great strength talent. "Please use the spaceship to transport it for me." Kyle was a little helpless. He felt that what he was holding was not a broken axe, but a Morningstar meteorite. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Asaprotus. Lee used the spaceship to transport a broken axe to Kyle's hotel, and then left to return to the exchange. All kinds of messy items purchased in the black market are placed on the table in the room, from which it can be seen that the owner has no intention of taking care of them. Kyle sat alone on the bed, with an item card that glowed with a strong purple light between his fingers. His eyes revealed complex meanings, and fell into long contemplation. Unknown battle axe, an unknown single-handed battle axe that has been severely damaged. Rare purple ability card. The end of the axe is made of metal Uru and the core of the planet that is about to decline, and the handle is made of wood from the tree of the world. It is a one-handed battle axe forged by the exquisite handicraft of the dwarves. The original battle axe can be summoned from the master, with superimposed energy of the user, and the explosive slash that is guided is enough to cut mountains and the ground horizontally. It has been severely damaged and lost all its original functions. Contaminated by the blood of ancient monsters and gods in the universe for a long time, it has a powerful aura of threat to lower creatures, an indelible hostility, and easily affects the user's mind. These are the details of the broken axe and the main reason why Kyle is so obsessed. In a state of serious damage, the rare materials alone are enough to maintain the rank of rare purple items. Before this one-handed battle axe was damaged, the original body was undoubtedly an artifact that surpassed the purple category and stepped into the orange rank. Certainly just finding a damaged artifact was not enough for Kyle to think about it for so long. The key point was the information brought by the damaged axe. God's Realm Metal, World Tree, and Dwarven Craft Forging. The forging materials and craftsmanship of this axe are too similar to Thor's hammer, as if they were forged at the same time, Kyle thought to himself. There are too many similarities between the broken axe and Thor's hammer, even part of the functional characteristics are the same. If it is said that the broken axe does not come from God's domain, he would not believe it if he was killed. God's domain, Asgard, Kyle whispered, staring at the broken axe item card. Yearning and longing appeared in his eyes. At first, when he decided to leave the Earth and go to the galaxy and the universe, the first thing that came to his mind was Asgard, the fairy palace where the Aesir clan lived. The Asaprotus, the top advanced race that now rules this universe. Their lifespan is as long as tens of thousands of years. They have been described in the Nordic mythology of the Earth. The Rainbow Bridge spans all parts of the universe at will, and they can go to the sky and enter the Earth with the help of artifacts. Their appearance are undoubtedly different from those of human beings, but their physical qualities are more than dozens of times superior to those of human beings in every aspect, and they have mastered extraordinary abilities such as thunder and death that vary from body to body. They are a veritable family of gods. Different from the Celestials who were born in the universe, in Kyle's cognitive judgment, the Asa should be the most perfectly evolved advanced intelligent race in the Marvel Universe. It should also be one of the development directions of the final evolution of human beings on the Earth. Compared with the Night Elf, Kyle wants to get the physical ability card of the Aesir clan. Ability cards that affect physique need to be carefully selected. So far, Kyle only has 2 physical ability cards, Self-Healing Factor, and Super Soldier. This type of ability card does not lie in the complexity of the number, but focuses on the fit between genes. For example, the Alien Physical Ability card of the Big-Eyed Monster. Since it is a blue grade, Kyle can naturally draw it. But once extracted, while gaining the innate ability of the Big-Eyed Monster, the genetic structure of his body will also be transformed into part of the Big-Eyed Monster. His eyes may become bigger, and his skin will turn into blue-brown similar to the Big-Eyed Monster. The Asaprotus, in terms of appearance and ability, is simply a deified version of human beings. It should be the most suitable physical ability card for Super Soldier. At present, Kyle clenched his fists and muttered to himself. When he knew that he had arrived at Sokka, Kyle had no choice but to give up obtaining the physical ability card of the Thunder God family, and planned to find another suitable race more than 5 months ago to replace it. Until now, the broken axe found on the black market rekindled his hope. I can use the one-handed battle axe produced by the same series of Thor's hammer, and use it to fight against ancient monsters and celestials. The owner of this axe must also be a member of the Asaprotus. Kyle's heart trembled slightly, and he thought excitedly for no reason. Half a year ago, this broken axe fell here. Is it possible that the god who owns the axe is not dead and survived on this planet? Although it is only a hypothesis, it is enough for Kyle to give everything to conduct research and investigation. If he succeeds in stealing the physical ability card of the Asaprotus, this is the Superman becoming a god in every sense, comparable to a god. Before Kyle quit his thinking, there was a sudden dynamic music sound outside the hotel window, and the huge sound waves formed a substantial wave, hitting his eardrums. What's going on? Frowning slightly, Kyle retracted the item card into the card space, sat up from the bed, and walked to the edge of the window. Outside the window, in the middle of the main city of Sokka, the tall and stalwart central building panel, under the holographic projection technology, the light turns into a meter-high projection of the Master. Grandmaster also resembles a human being in appearance and looks like a white-haired uncle. Wearing a luxurious dress, he spread his hands gently and calmly, overlooking the entire main city of Sokka, and the loudspeakers all over the street spread his words, "Dear residents of Sokka, today is the warm-up for the championship duel. You are welcome to come to the duel field and watch with me the most bloody, cruel and passionate life and death duel." As soon as the words fell, passionate music resounded in every corner of the main city of Sokka at the same time. All kinds of aliens on the street cheered happily to welcome the major holidays, parading the streets and flocking to the duel field behind the central building. Kyle opened the door, and the white waves in the hall were eager to move, jumping and running to reach him. Mr. Kyle. The duel match on planet Sokka has begun, Bibo shouted. The expression on the beast's face was also very excited, and the squirrel-like white tail kept shaking. Explaining, "This is a grand project organized by the Grandmaster himself. The Grandmaster likes to collect strong people from all over the universe and put them together, forcing a one-on-one life and death duel, and only the winner who becomes the champion in the end can be free. It is the most enthusiastic and favorite project of the residents of this planet, a strong man who collects the starry sky. Let's go and have a look." Kyle nodded as he wished, and became interested in the duel field. He had a hunch that maybe there was information about the owner of the broken axe that he wanted to find out on this duel arena. In the future, even the Hulk and Thor have experienced duel championships. What else is impossible? Chapter 171 Sokka Duel. The warm-up match of the championship battle is ready to start. As the grand celebration of a major festival comes, all the alien creatures on the planet Sokka are almost agitated. Whether they are residents of the inner city or scavengers of the outer city, they do not hesitate to put down the work at hand, and do not intend to miss even just a few. It's a warm-up duel. They were fanatical, whistling, and holding signs to support their favorite champions. Some fanatics even painted their faces and clothes into the skin color of the contestants, gathered in groups on the main street of the city, and marched to the duel venue swarm. Over the sky above the main city of Sokka, dozens of guard spaceships are distributed at certain intervals. With the central building of Sokka as the center, a mesh-shaped sky covering a range of 1 kilometer is formed, firmly occupying the air supremacy, and using beams of light and broadcasts to guide and maintain order. The crowd below enters. As soon as Kyle and Bibo walked out of the hotel, they merged directly into the crowded crowd on the main street. There were aliens with strange appearances on the front, back, left, and right, and the carnival sound waves tightly engulfed and impacted the two. Being inside the alien crowd, Kyle couldn't help but be infected by the lively atmosphere. The aliens are obviously obsessed and looking forward to the upcoming championship duel, and their fanaticism is no less than that of the loyal World Cup fans on Earth. As long as there are competitions in the duel field, this planet of Sokka, which is built on garbage, will be full of vigor and vitality as if ignited, Bibo said with a sigh. The local residents of alien creatures seem to use this to release their primitive nature of pursuing the strong and killing, and by the way eliminate the boringness of being trapped in a cage-like planet. Kyle nodded his head in understanding. Not just to pass the boring time, but to evolve and become stronger, which is the common goal of life in the universe. On this planet, there are lost alien race creatures from all over the universe. Putting them together to perform a life and death duel to compete against each other, this is something that creatures love to see. The duel field is located behind the central building. It is a huge interstellar stadium. It has a flat cylindrical structure, including a steel outer wall with a radius of 500 meters. The middle is open air, emitting bright lights to the surroundings and the sky. At this time, looking down from the sky, You can see the biological inhabitants of the whole planet pouring into the duel venue from all directions like densely packed ants returning to their nests. Afraid of being stepped on in the crowd, the short Babo grabbed Kyle's shoulder and hung it in the air like a bag. It looked at the huge venue that came into view, and said with emotion, "The Starry Sky Duel Stadium can accommodate 20 spectators at a time to watch the game. In half an hour, more than, % of the biological residents of this planet will be accommodated here." Kyle slammed his mouth in surprise when he heard this terrifying data. It is estimated that only Saka, a morbidly lost place, can have this unprecedented experience of watching the game that makes the local residents extremely fanatic. Arriving at the entrance of the stadium, Kyle was surprised to find that the tickets were priced according to the level of the near and far areas. And the most back row would cost, Saka coins. Bibo, who usually cares more about money than anything else, did not hesitate this time, and bought a seat ticket worth, with him to enter the venue. Perhaps this is the charm of the championship duel. Kyle shook his head, seeing many scavengers who were dressed in shabby clothes and couldn't even afford to live in a house or hotel. They were more active than anyone else when paying for tickets to the duel. For the creatures on this planet, duel tickets are probably a necessity of life, so that they can feel the meaning of being alive. After passing the alien security inspection, Kyle and Bibo were seated according to the tickets. Their seats are located in the front row of the venue on the second floor. Looking down, they can see the vast circular duel venue well. In Babo's words, the viewing experience in the areas from the 3rd to 10th floors in the back is poor, and the area on the first floor in front is sometimes dangerous, so the second floor is the best viewing area. Kyle sat on his seat and looked around. Most of the seats in the inner area of the Interstellar Stadium were filled with alien audiences before the game officially started. The audience cheered passionately, and their eyes fell on the concrete playing field below. This is still a pre-selection match. If it is a championship match, how exaggerated would it be? What kind of talents and abilities do the challengers who come to participate in have? Kyle lightly clenched his fists. His heart was infected by the atmosphere, and he thumped forcefully. Rapid jump. So far, he has not studied the alien race in detail, and the big-eyed monster he killed can be regarded as the scum of the 5th combat power. Based on his own current, the most perfect ideal super soldier physique for human beings on Earth, including hundreds of combat skills on Earth, which level of combat power can barely be ranked in the starry sky? Kyle's heart is very urgent, and it happens that he can pass the duel game on the planet Saka to understand the general level of combat power in all parts of the universe and starry sky. He didn't think too much. Following the high exclamation of the audience, more than a dozen miniature flying equipment entered the arena, projecting lights over the duel field, and pieced together a full-body projection of the Grandmaster. The master projection glanced around, and said with an approachable smile, "Everyone, the wonderful performance is about to kick off. Are you happy?" What responded to him was deafening cheers from the entire Interstellar Stadium. "I am your host. Please give your applause to the challengers who are about to die on the spot on the warm-up competition. Their spirit and blood are worthy of praise." The Grandmaster smiled lightly, spread his hands and said, "I hope everyone like me. Today was a worthwhile trip." Grandmaster, Kyle's eyes moved slightly, and he looked up to the highest point of the venue, where there is a special viewing platform with glass floor-to-ceiling windows. The Grandmaster himself and his trusted guards should be on it. "Not much nonsense. I announce the official start of the race. Now, all the challengers of the play-in competition are invited to enter." After the master finished speaking, the projection waved down, and beside the duel field, the steel gates on the 4 sides opened slowly. Under the cheers of the crowd, countless shadows inside the 4 gates moved, and different challenger creatures rushed out of them. They were either wearing armor and holding weapons, or they were empty-handed, revealing their beast-like wild bodies, roaring into the duel arena. "Is this warm-up match a group battle?" Kyle asked, slightly surprised. Bibo nodded, and replied, "No. After all, in the warm-up match, the strength of the challengers varies too much, and the one-on-one competition mode is too time-consuming, so the group battle will be the first to eliminate most of them." It paused, and said excitedly, "The last 4 challengers on the field can enter the second half of the schedule, and then compete one-on-one to choose the strongest challenger of this session and dominate here. The champion who has been around for a long time will come out to defend the ring." Chapter 172: The Cruel Duel. The champion who has dominated the Saka duel for a long time? Kyle was taken aback for a moment, as if he had gotten a crucial message from Babo's mouth. But before he could get to the bottom of it, the surrounding alien crowd shouted menacingly, and their faces were even distorted in excitement, exuding their original savings. The long-standing hostility. Kill. Fight quickly. Eliminate and eliminate. If you want to survive, kill other creatures, under the collective urging of 10,000 plus alien crowd. In the duel arena, the number of challengers released from the underground prison has increased to nearly 100. They came to the duel field where the lights were focused, without too many words, and guarded the other challengers around them murderously and coldly. Only the 4 challengers who stand at the end can continue to survive, and in the duel field of life and death, elimination means death. This is the rule set by the master, and it is also the supreme rule of Planet Sokka. What? In the duel arena, a humanoid challenger was the first to scream, but was swiftly attacked by a giant double-headed snake from behind. The upper body of the double-headed snake stood up straight with 2 heads. One mouth bit his head, and the other mouth bit his struggling feet, helping to stuff it into the mouth, swallowing the living prey. In less than 3 seconds, the humanoid challenger had completely lost its sound and trace, and even the man and the armor were swallowed into the snake's belly. The giant double-headed snake was spitting out bloody cores, its silver vertical pupils stared at the other challengers indifferently, and its tail slapped the floor with a sizzling noise, making one's scalp tingle. This horrific scene of swallowing alive ignited the cheering of the crowd in the auditorium, and also made the chaotic group battle on the duel venue completely imminent. Mr. Kyle, look, Bibo seemed to have discovered something by accident, raised his paw, and happily pointed to a corner on the edge of the duel venue. Kyle followed its instructions and watched. At the edge of the fierce melee, a green monster with big eyes was trembling on the ground, wearing a complete set of steel armor. Isn't that the leader of the big-eyed monster who was seriously injured by him last night? A lot of challengers are actually slaves and criminals captured by the Grandmaster. If they want to exchange for freedom, they can only fight to the end in the duel field and defeat the final defending champion. Bibo smiled meaningfully. The squinted eyes said, "It is absolutely impossible to hide until the end without fighting." Not long after Bibo finished speaking, a 2-meter-tall brown stone man ran past, holding a mace full of steel nails, and smashed hard on the leader of the big-eyed monster on the ground. After the blow, the stone man didn't even look at it, and left directly carrying the blood-stained mace, rushing into the battle again. On the floor where he was, the leader of the big-eyed monster turned into a ball of meat sauce. His armor was completely deformed and sank into the ground, and disgusting green blood continued to spill out. Cool, Bibo chuckled. The big-eyed monster belonged to a criminal gang, and it had been disliked for a long time. Kyle also shook his head. With the cruel rules of the duel arena, in this kind of group melee, the first to die must be weak creatures that avoid combat. Because there are 4 surviving quotas, strong challengers will definitely avoid each other consciously. First pick the weak eggplants and keep pinching them. After enough challengers are eliminated, they will be safe. Just like raising goo, the weak eat the strong, the survival of the fittest, and the ones that survive are the strongest and most powerful fighting creatures. Kyle stared at the duel field where battles and killings were staged. The fighting between creatures of various races in the universe really opened his eyes in a novelty, far from the experience of fighting beasts and insects on Earth. He saw a big man with a steel mace the size of half a car in his hand. His muscles and skin were all made of rough stone. He swung the steel mace whizzingly. The strength easily reached several tons, and he smashed a 4-meter-tall giant into blood. Minced meat. He saw a man with sickle-shaped hands, a tall, thin man who looked like a praying mantis. His body was vigorous and flexible, and his speed reached supersonic speed. The knife in his hand slashed a stone man known for his strength and defense in half. He also saw an alien child with flesh-colored tentacles all over his body and black and red eyes, erupting with extraordinary self-healing ability. The tentacles stretched out and turned into sharp weapons, piercing the frogman and the big-eyed monster respectively. Mummy. In 10 minutes, more than half of the hundreds of challengers who had been eliminated were cut in half, and the eliminated creatures turned into corpses and lay across the field. Red, green, black, and purple blood stains intertwined, scribbling on the scarred floor of the duel arena. At the same time, the chaotic battle situation became intense, and the cheers in the auditorium became more and more intense. Win back the ticket price completely. The quality of this year's challengers is very high, Bibo sighed, waving his paw excitedly. Only monster-like creatures in the universe starry sky can stand to the end in this duel field. Kyle nodded approvingly, the shimmer in his eyes flickered, and he felt a certain pressure from it. The combat level of alien creatures in the dual field far exceeded his expectations. Challengers immersed in the battle of survival and killing can only have a chance of survival if they fight with all their strength and use their own race's talents and abilities. Even if he has the dominant strength on the Earth, if he is also in the dual field below, he will die on the spot if he is not careful. 15 minutes later. The corpses of alien creatures were piled up in disorder on the duel arena. Broken weapons and colorful blood were scattered all over the ground, like a terrifying scene from hell. Suddenly, less than 10 remaining challengers stopped at the same time. No matter how strong they were after going through fierce battles, their bodies were also injured. They glanced at each other coldly and fell into a short period of confrontation. There are 8 more. The climax of this duel has come, Bibo said, holding his breath. That's right, Kyle agreed. The number of challengers on the field has been reduced to less than 10 at this time. The surviving creatures standing on the field are no longer weak and easy to deal with. As long as they each find another opponent, they will be eliminated. Kyle's face was serious and dignified. And he kept in mind the appearance and natural abilities of the creatures of different races on the dual field. The attack methods they are good at, their fatal weaknesses, their unique and powerful attack methods, their unexpectedly tough and resistant defensive skills, these are all non-human, at the absolute monster level. Kyle believes that as long as he is in this universe, even if he returns to Earth, he may encounter them one day. Even if he possesses hundreds of combat skills, they are basically aimed at human beings. When facing these monster races in the universe and starry sky, once they meet the right ones, they may not even know how to die. Chapter 173 Goodbye Venom. Under the bright lights of spaceships and interstellar stadiums, on the bloody dual field, including the giant double-headed snake, the Scythe Man, the Stone Man, and the Tentacle Child, who were outstanding in the battle before, 8 challenger creatures confronted each other. The duel venue fell into a brief silence for a while, which was in stark contrast to the excitement of the auditorium outside the venue. The cheers of hundreds of thousands of alien audiences were boiling, and the sound waves almost directly overturned the entire venue. Mr. Kyle, which 4 do you think will survive to the end? Bibo rubbed his paws and asked excitedly. Shaking his head lightly, Kyle narrowed his eyes slightly, and said in a deep voice, I'm not sure. So far, there must be some people who haven't shown their real strength. If you want to say who is more stable, the alien child with tentacles and the man with a knife will have a much higher probability of surviving, and they will basically be able to advance to the semifinals. Kyle gave a judgment based on his own experience. That's right, then I'll make a bet, Bibo said, and hurriedly took out an electronic device similar to a touchscreen mobile phone. Kyle shrugged, focusing on the dueling arena. The man with a sickle in both hands, the sharp hand knife and even the steel armor can be easily cut in half, and has a supersonic burst speed, terrible physical attack and movement speed. Even if you don't take the initiative to attack, choose to avoid a battle and keep at high speed on the field, no one could touch him even after moving around a few times. As for the Tentacle Kid, judging from the melee just now, his strength, speed, fighting skills, and ability to fight are all at the upper level, comparable to the naked Captain America. In addition, the flesh-colored tentacles that can be used freely can attack and defend, and can also absorb other people's blood as nutrients for super-fast self-healing. Wait a minute. Kyle suddenly stood up from the watching seat, staring at the child in the field below, whose tentacles kept swinging. As if aware of his gaze, the tentacle child raised his head inadvertently. With dark blood-colored pupils without emotion, he glanced at the seat area where Kyle was, and quickly looked away, focusing on the challengers around him. Despite the distance of nearly, meters, Kyle still felt a very familiar and strange feeling from the tentacle child. An illusion, Kyle muttered to himself. Hey, what are you doing standing up? And let no one watch the game. The view was blocked by Kyle, who stood up suddenly, and the alien audience behind him cursed dissatisfiedly, wanting to step forward to make a theory. Kyle turned his head, his eyes glanced coldly behind him, and a faint sense of oppression radiated out. As if facing a brutal and powerful monster, the arrogance of the alien audience shrank immediately, not daring to look at it. I'm sorry, everyone. Bibo quickly smoothed things over and pulled down Kyle's trousers. Kyle followed its meaning and sat back in his seat in silence. Mr. Kyle, what's wrong with you? Bibo asked in surprise. It's okay, let's continue watching the game, Kyle replied with a calm face, and his flickering eyes drifted back to the duel field. This time, His eyes locked on the tentacle child and did not move away. His heart was far less peaceful than it seemed at this moment. On the duel arena, the remaining 8 challengers finally moved together, selected each other's opponents, and divided the arena into 4 small areas to start the battle. The opponent chosen by the tentacle kid is a big stone man with a mace. I saw it sprinting and accelerating, pedaling and bouncing. Its small body hit the stone man like a heavy artillery shell, and the dozen or so tentacles on its body fluttered like hair. Children, how dare you find me as an opponent? Watch me hammer you into meat paste. Seeing this, the stone man grinned angrily, holding a huge mace tightly in both hands, and raised his hands in the posture of playing baseball. Get up, charge up and swing out in front of your body. Under the brute force of the super strong wrist, the huge and heavy mace actually blew a howling gale, which just blocked the trajectory of the tentacle child rushing towards him. The audience exclaimed, as if they had seen the bloody scene where the tentacle child's petite body collided with a mace and exploded in the air. It's time to show your true abilities, Kyle whispered to himself when he saw this. As if to confirm his words, under the shocked gaze of countless alien audiences, the tentacle child suddenly stretched out a pair of red wings from his back, and the wings tore apart his jacket, and the trembling and flapping forward made his body jittery. Poised in the air, the stone man's expression changed drastically, and the mace he swung struck the child's nose and fell into the air. He slammed it obliquely on the floor with too much force, making a dull and loud sound, and the concrete floor cracked and formed a depression. Seizing this opportunity, several tentacles shot forward suddenly, and the long whip tightly wrapped around the stone man's neck. Damn it, the stone man roared, let go of the overly heavy mace, grabbed the tentacles on his neck with one hand, and stretched out the other hand to grab the tentacle child. The tentacle kid had no expression on his face, and flapped his wings, avoiding the stone arms with ease by gliding. He landed on the back of the stone man's head, stretched out his dark claws, and accurately pierced the opponent's eyes. 1/3 of the claws sank into the stone eye sockets, stabbing the eyeballs. The fragile eyes were injured, and the stone man couldn't help screaming. In the pain, he finally grabbed the wrists of both hands of the tentacle child with sharp claws, and pinched them with only one palm. The tentacle child struggled vigorously, apparently in vain. Simply comparing strength, the stone man is not on vain at all. Catch you, don't even think about running away. The stone man closed his bloody eyes, tightly grasped the tentacle child's hands with all his strength, raised it high, and brute force broke a few tough tentacles wrapped around his neck. Die to me, the stone man roared, and smashed the tentacle child in his hand to the ground with all his strength, causing the broken stones to splash everywhere, and the floor that was already full of cracks collapsed again. As if uneasy, the stone man hit it twice again, and then let go of his palm. The tentacle child fell to the ground in a coma, motionless. His wings were broken, his arms were almost dislocated and broken, and his body was covered in blood and scars. The victor, it's me. The stone man raised his hands, his eyes were hollow, and blood and tears continued to flow, which was extremely tragic. The audience cheered loudly. But soon, the cheers turned into exclamations. They looked in shock at the tentacle child who was seriously injured on the ground. 2 tentacles that had faded to black slowly rose up. When the stone man was defenseless, they shot into each other in the eye socket. The tentacles stirred quickly inside, enough to mash the brain. The stone man's body was stiff, his laughter stagnated, and he lost his vitality and fell back on the ground. This sudden reversal caused the audience to burst into loud applause. In the audience, only Kyle frowned deeply, wondering inside. There is absolutely no mistake, the tentacle child is symbiotically attached to the venom. Chapter 174. Camouflage, gliding, claws, whips, tentacles. These extremely familiar abilities clearly revealed the identity of the tentacle child on the field without any suspense. Kyle was pleasantly surprised. Venom, it will appear on the soccer duel field, or it will be symbiotically attached to a child from another star. He thought that the time would be staggered for a long time, so he chose to gain a firm foothold on the planet Sokka first, and then slowly search for traces of Venom later. Unexpectedly, Venom seemed to come to Sokka much earlier than him, and even went to the duel field. While pleasantly surprised, Kyle has more doubts. If it's Venom, why doesn't it have the sense of connection with the creatures summoned by the creature card? And the Venom from the Master itself should try its best to find me. Why did it appear in the duel field? Kiersey thought about it, but couldn't think of a reasonable answer for a while. The creatures summoned by the creature card will vaguely maintain a certain relationship with the card owner, and they can still feel their presence even if they are far away from the hemisphere on the Earth. But at this time, Kyle was sitting in the auditorium about, meters away, but he had no sense of connection with the venom in the field if it weren't for the tentacle kid's excessive abilities and skills, leaving strong traces of his usual fighting style. Then even if the opponent passed by, he would not be able to detect it. Venom, how long before I arrived on this planet, and what happened? Kyle frowned uncomfortably, which was out of control. In the duel arena, two black tentacles detached from the eye sockets of the stone man, devoured and absorbed enough nutrients, and fed back to the alien child as the host. The body of the alien child healed from the wound at a speed visible to the naked eye. After the repair was completed, he opened his eyes and stood up as if nothing had happened, standing on the edge of the battle with a blank face. This feeling, is it a puppet? Kyle quietly clenched his fists, slightly surprised. It's not just the inducement of the mind, but the weak host creature, domineering as a puppet of the body, completely occupying the initiative of the body, and acting as it pleases. Venom had fatally shown this kind of innate ability when he was fighting in Risen Tokyo on Earth, but he didn't care about it at the time, and believed that with his own strength, he was not afraid that Venom would turn his back on the master. Before things are clarified, don't speculate too much. As long as there is a chance to come into contact with the Venom again, everything will be answered. With a light breath, Kyle stretched his brows, leaned on the back of the seat, and finished reading the battle for the remaining challengers. I hope things are not as bad as you guessed, otherwise Venom. It seems that the training is not enough. On the duel arena, after the tentacle boy finished killing the stone man, he stood on the sidelines of the battle in full bloom, and no one dared to provoke him. The remaining 3 small regional duels also ushered in the conclusion of the end. The man with the scythe wins cleanly, playing with a 6-eyed monster with supersonic speed and a sharp hand knife. He is not in a hurry to kill the opponent by beheading his head. Instead, he is like a wild beast, enjoying the thrill of hunting and fighting. The enemy is pushing towards hell little by little. The 6-eyed monster, known for its dynamic vision and 360-degree defense without dead ends, did not touch the man with the scythe all the way, and was spun around at high speed by the man with the scythe, leaving long and thin wounds all over his body. Desperately reduced to corpse. It's so strong. It's decided, the championship match. I want to support Brother Deo. I hope he can go to the end and shake the ever-victorious champion. Bible let out a sigh of admiration. Kyle nodded. The Scythe Man, an alien creature, is simply a fighting race born for fighting and killing. Even if it is him at this time, he has no choice but to escape if he encounters him with a supersonic moving speed. It can reach behind you in less than a moment, and complete the beheading harvest with a wave of the knife. No amount of combat skills can match a supersonic slash. The other side, a giant double-headed snake, was even more savage and brutal. A semi-mechanized creature was still used as a meal, strangled by the snake's waist as thick as a bucket, and swallowed alive into the snake's belly. After swallowing it completely, you can still see the mechanical creature wriggling violently in the belly of the two-headed snake. After half a minute, it seemed to be digested and calmed down at last. A strong Tauren with 2 pointed horns fought a bloody battle with a werewolf, and won a tragic victory with rich combat experience. So far, only 4 challengers survived in the duel field littered with corpses, namely the child with venom, the man with the scythe, the giant double-headed snake, and the Tauren. The final 4 are decided, which also means the end of the warm-up trials. With the entry of more than a dozen micro-flying machines, the Grandmaster was once again holographically projected over the venue. Grandmaster rubbed his palms together, smiled and said, "Sirs and ladies, our dear 4 finalists have come out. I don't know if you have watched it. Please give applause to the winners after watching it, and congratulate them on continuing to live for 3 more days." Immediately, the audience burst into applause and cheers. It doesn't matter if you haven't watched it, our championship match will begin in 3 more days. At that time, these poor challengers will face an invincible creature, the King of Champions who has dominated the duel field for half a year. Demon King. As soon as Grandmaster finished speaking, most of the alien audience in the auditorium blushed and shouted enthusiastically, "Champion Demon King! Champion Demon King! This battle almost caught up with my reputation in Earth, New York." Kyle complained secretly, and asked thoughtfully, "Who is the champion devil?" Bibo took a deep breath and said solemnly, "It's the man codenamed Devil King. He has been in the duel field for half a year. No matter what opponent he meets, He will ruthlessly crush the challenger with terrifying strength, which represents strength and bloodthirsty. The symbol of the invincible existence of creatures of all races in the universe and starry sky. Invincible existence. Kyle frowned. This definition is too unstable and reliable. But he knows that the future Hulk has also served as a long-term champion here, and he is basically invincible all over the starry sky. The range of the starry sky here is limited to creatures lost on the planet Sokka. Later, Thor, who fell into this place, was not half awakened and barely overthrew the Hulk. Anyway, creatures at the level of the Hulk and Thor can really be called the strongest in the universe. Kyle sighed, and he was also looking forward to the championship match 3 days later. Is the champion Devil King the original owner of the divine weapon, the broken axe? And Venom? Thinking of this, Kyle felt a slight headache. How to get in touch with the Venom really needs a long-term plan. Then I announced that the duel warm-up match is over. 3 days later, please come back to watch the championship match. The Grandmaster laughed, the light dimmed, and the holographic projection quickly disappeared. Chapter 175 Babo and Enlil. The challengers who have advanced to the semi-finals, supervised by guards, return to the underground prison of the duel arena. The alien audience began to leave their seats one after another, exiting the stage with unsatisfied feelings. Kyle watched the tentacle child off until its figure disappeared at the underground gate of the duel venue, and then he recovered from his thoughts. Mr. Kyle, it's time for us to leave, Babo greeted him while tugging at his clothes. Babo. Is there a way for me to meet the challenger in the underground prison of the duel venue? Kyle looked at Babo and asked casually. Want to meet the challenger? I can't help you here, Babo spread his hands helplessly, explaining, it's just a nice way to say it to the outside world. In fact, their identity is just this: say, the lowest criminals and slaves on planet Car belong to the Grandmaster alone. Unless the relationship with the Grandmaster is close, no one can contact the challenger. It seems that there are still other ways too. Kyle sighed inwardly, but his face was as calm as before, and he didn't show too much concern. He got up from his seat and said, let's go, come back in 3 days. Babo was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed. Mr. Kyle, you also like the championship game, right? Let me just say that the planet Sokka is too boring. After coming here, no one can resist it. Live up to the appeal of a championship game. Kyle nodded slightly. Although he had a different focus from Babo, he was indeed very interested in the championship match. The two exited as the last group of spectators. After leaving, they left behind the silent and empty interstellar duel arena, as well as the colorful bright bloodstains and the remains of alien creature corpses on the field. Coming out of the gate of the duel venue with Babo, Kyle was about to return to the hotel, but before he had walked a few steps in the square of the venue, the humming sound of the spaceship engine suddenly came from above his head. The seller of the broken axe is here. Maybe he took you for a fool and tried to trick you again, Babo said in a low voice. Kyle looked up, and it turned out to be Enlil's exclusive spaceship, with a distinctive pink pattern, hovering right above them in a hurry. The smart door opened, and Enlil's younger brother poked out his little pink head from the cabin, smiled at Kyle below and said, Mr. Kyle, my sister said she would like to buy you a cup of afternoon tea. Before Kyle answered, Babo next to him folded his hands, wagging his tail back and forth, and snorted slightly dissatisfied. As if he heard something, Brother Enlil turned his head and listened carefully, then continued to pass the message with a smile. My sister said, please do Mr. Babo a favor and come with Mr. Kyle. That's about the same. Babo nodded arrogantly. Kyle glanced at it and reminded coldly, I haven't agreed yet. Babo quickly drooped his ears, and persuaded, Mr. Kyle, didn't you say that you want to get in touch with a challenger at close range? A little scavenger, can't do it, and the receptionist Enlil might be the one. She works for the Grandmaster, may be able to make it happen. When Kyle heard it, his eyes lit up, and he looked at Babo meaningfully. Babo lowered his head feeling a little pressure, and stopped making noises. Not bad. After a moment of silence, Kyle smiled inexplicably, and had a new understanding of Babo. Babo is also a smart creature. Obviously he didn't express his inner thoughts and urgency just now, but Babo still saw some of them through his observation, and offered suggestions to pave the way for him to do things. If it was said that the two were still a cooperative relationship between the employer and the tour guide before, then now, Babo took the initiative to show the meaning of hugging his thigh. Let's go, Kyle uttered a voice, motioning Babo to follow, and walked to the stairs where the spaceship fell first. Until then, Bibo breathed a sigh of relief, wiped the sweat off his forehead hair with his paws, and followed Kyle's tail. Sokka Interstellar Restaurant, the top 10th floor. Because it is close to the inner city where the master lives, all buildings are not allowed to exceed half the height of the central building. Under strict regulations, the 10th floor is already the highest height that can only be built with backstage personnel. The inner lobby on the 10th floor of the restaurant Bibo sat on the soft seat for, people, looking at the opposite side of the table. Unli's brother, who was burying his head in the plate, sighed from the bottom of his heart. It's rare to come to the Interstellar Restaurant. Why do you have to be with a kid? Together, dare to be more connotative. That budget-minded woman actually plays this hand. Bibo glanced to the side and complained. Kyle and Unli were seated on the other side, about 10 meters apart, and the words of the conversation could not be heard here. Forget it. For the sake of the food, let me forgive you for now. Bibo sighed. His eyes fell on the food on the table in front of him. He rolled up his sleeves with his claws, grabbed a big meaty leg and stuffed it into his mouth. The speed was not much slower than that of Unli's younger brother. At this time Kyle and Unli were sitting on the 10th floor of the restaurant by the window. The small wormhole in the sky refracted the glare and reflected on the window. Looking out through the floor-to-ceiling windows, they could have a bird's-eye view of half of the main city of Sokka. Henry no longer wore a work uniform, but changed into a luxurious long dress. She was a young woman with human-like appearance and facial features, only her pink skin indicated that she was not human. She has obviously been well-dressed, wearing exquisite necklaces and earrings, and wearing waist-length double ponytails. In Kyle's view, her pink skin does not violate harmony, but has a faint alien charm. Of course, Kyle is purely appreciative and has no other colorful thoughts. Stardew, who has a heavy taste, may like this. Mr. Kyle, you should have just come to this planet not long ago? Enli asked softly. Yes. I've only been here for about 2 days, Kyle nodded, not intending to hide it. No wonder, you will hang out with scavengers. When you first come to planet Sokka, it is very necessary to have a local guide. Unli chuckled and said with emotion, I came to planet Sokka when my parents were in my generation, so my brother Zyodi and I have been living on this planet since we were born. With a slight movement in his heart, Kyle asked straight to the point, you have lived here for so long, and you work in the replacement office under the Grandmaster. How is your relationship with the Grandmaster? Grandmaster, Unli hesitated, looked around, and whispered in awe and fear. No one dares to say that they have a good relationship with Grandmaster. This planet is developed and ruled by Grandmaster. This building, the main city of Sokka, and even us, it can be said that it belongs to the Master. The Grandmaster is an extraordinary and refined cosmic elder who likes to collect rare items and powerful creatures from all over the universe, and his joy and impermanence depend on his mood. Unli paused, then thought about it and said, Master Grandmaster, I have only seen him less than 5 times in such a long time. Normally, Grandmaster appears in a holographic projection, like a god maintaining dignity and alienation. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.